Welcome to the regular meeting of the Forsyth County Board of Commissioners. We're going to meet and vote in this particular meeting. And following this meeting, we will have a briefing for the September 26th Board of Commissioners. Citizens who are interested in participating in the public session of the meeting, we have a telephone number for you, and a lot of you are watching on Channel 13 right now. The telephone number, and I'll repeat it again after I've read it one time, 336-422-1200. You will be placed on hold until the public session begins, and the clerk to the Forsyth County Board of Commissioners, Ashley Sloop, is standing by to take your call. Remember, that number is 336-422-1200, and that is to be done during the public session when you have anything on your mind concerning the problems, needs, or interests of all of Forsyth County. Members of the audience in this room who are interested in participating in the public session of the meeting, we were asking you, or will ask you to, and you can do it now or you can do it shortly, go to the lobby just outside this room, and you will find a clerk card that you can fill out. When you get that filled out, take it to Ashley Sloop to my right against the wall there. Give it to her and she will take care of it from there. Now, before we begin this particular session, as you are all aware, the past 26 hours in Forsyth County have been sad, and it's difficult to put it into words. I think sad is a good way to start. I would like to ask everyone here to, number one, stand in memory of William Miller, Jr., who lost his life yesterday, and in memory of the first responders, which would include local school officials, the Forsyth County Sheriff's Department, the Winston-Salem Police Department, and all those who participated in the recovery efforts in this county, and that's going to be a long time. Following the moment of silence, and I'll let you all know that, we're going to have an invocation given by Bruce Bettinger of the River to the Nations Ministry, and the Pledge of Allegiance to be followed by and led by Commissioner Gloria Wisenhunt. Thank you very much. Pastor Reverend Bettinger, you may begin.
May we pray. Heavenly Father, we thank you for each individual on the Board of Commissioners and for their service to our community. We pray that you would grant them wisdom as they deal with the various issues that affect Forsyth County, and help us all as citizens to do our part. As Jesus said, for the Son of Man came not to be served, but to serve and give his life as a ransom for many. And finally, I'd like to remember the family of William Miller, and we lift them up to you. Comfort them, give them your great consolation and love, surround them with your compassion. And not only them, we pray for the students and the faculty at Mount Tabor High School. We pray that you would help them deal with this loss, and that you would strengthen them and encourage them during this time of loss. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And I will say that not only are we having a difficult time emotionally and otherwise in Forsyth County because of what's transpired in the past 26 hours. Joshua Swift, who is the public health director, has been tackling the pandemic with 24-hour days sometimes, and it's a tough time for the Public Health Department and the people of Forsyth County as well. And Joshua is standing by remotely to give us the latest report on COVID-19. Mr. Smith, Mr. Swift.
Yeah, excuse me. When I pull up the right presentation. Yes. Good afternoon, Commissioners. This first slide, is from September the 1st. You can see that as of September 1st, we'd had 210 cases on that day. 2,869 cases over the previous 14 days. Our average is now over 200 cases per day, and our percent positive is 14%. And you can see our vaccination coverage for 18 years of age and older, partially and fully vaccinated. Community level transmission is high, and the total of 460 deaths. This next slide, really what I want to do with these next few slides is just show some perspective over the last few months. So starting in early May, you can see our percent positivity was right at around 5% or below. Then we dipped down to 1.4, 1.3% in mid to late June. And then since the 1st of July, we have drastically increased our percent of positive test to now almost 15%. The next slide looks at our COVID cases per week. And with that slide, you can see that, again, in late May, June, we were at 40 to 35 cases per week. And now, over the past 3 weeks throughout August, it's over 1,100. Now it's over 1,300 cases per week. This next visual shows the COVID cases over the summer, but you can see the whole month of June, we only had 258 cases compared to 959 in July, and then almost 4,500 for the month of August. Our next slide here is looking at just a snapshot of pediatric COVID cases by week, and you can see the age groups of 0 to 1, 2 to 4, and so on. You can see that for most of the age groups, there has been an uptick. The pediatric cases represent around 25 to 30% of our cases, which has been the case for the most part throughout the pandemic, but also remembering that children 11 and under are unvaccinated because there's no vaccine approved for that age group. It's only approved for 12 and above. Next slide is a slide you've seen before with updated information. You can see that our 67% of adults in the county 18 and over are partially vaccinated. 62% are fully vaccinated. And you can look and see by demographics and by age those numbers. Just to put things into perspective, I pulled some numbers from early June, and in early June, approximately we had 23% of 12 to 17-year-olds who were partially vaccinated, and now that number is 43%. So you can, I'll be working on some future charts where you can see the uptick in vaccinations over the previous months. Next chart, just wanted to show you, looking at the percent of the population that's fully vaccinated and comparing us to really our neighboring counties here in the Triad. And you can see Guilford and Forsyth are very close at 63 and 62% of the population that is fully vaccinated. And then you can see how we compare to our neighboring counties. This next slide is also looking at the Triad. It's looking at the Triad Healthcare Preparedness region that the state looks at for all of hospitalizations. And what you see is hospitalizations in the Triad region from late July up until September the 1st. And you can see how those have increased to now 885. Out of that 885, this is off of the state website, 223 are in ICU and 18% are on ventilators. And my last slide is the University of Washington, their health metrics and evaluation. You've seen this before. What we're looking at is we hope that by late September, early October, we'll be through this wave. It could be as soon as now. It could be starting to gradually go down and plateau. But we are close to the numbers that we had in our peak of late December and early January. And that concludes my presentation. I'll be happy to take any questions.
Any questions for Mr. Swift? Comments?
Yes, Chairman. Joshua, I do have some questions relative to the spreadsheets that you sent earlier this week, and it was about the pediatric COVID cases. You said that there's an increase. So I'm looking at the grade levels in grade 5, and I know that the schools have a protocol where students are to wear masks and practice social distancing. Can you speak to the efforts that's happening, not relative to the schools, but maybe for the daycares, for the children that are younger in daycares, and or them being exposed to individuals at school, because we know that East Forsyth High School had a huge outbreak out there with their COVID cases, or from the listing that you gave, they were the largest. So if you could speak to that, that would be helpful. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner McDaniel. The question you had was relative to child care?
Yes. Daycare.
Yes. So we are working with so ever since the start of the pandemic, we have had staff that have worked with the child care centers, at first to educate them, and then to provide guidance, and we still are doing that. We've also noticed that obviously child care centers in the city with a mask mandate, depending on the age of the child may or may not be required to wear a mask, but the staff definitely are. So we know that has been, we've seen that to be very helpful for those child care centers.
As far as the students so how are you working along with the families that have children that are in, I think, when you're 11 years old, you're in middle school, that's 5th grade, right? So with those students that are exposed to others that may be in high school, that maybe have siblings that are in the daycares, how are you working alongside with those families?
Well, we have contact tracers who are specifically working with those that are 18 and younger, and those 65 and older. That is the 2 priorities that the state has set for us to work with, and we're working to give them guidance about how to protect the rest of the family members if another family member is sick.
Okay. And thank you so very much. I appreciate all the work that I've seen you do over the last couple of weeks. It is a challenging time that we have, and hopefully our resolutions today will be able to support you more. Thank you.
Additional comments or questions?
Joshua, I have one question. Last week we discussed, I guess Dr. Ohl was with us also, and we discussed sort of this issue of having a mask, changing our, some kind of 30-day period of mask ordinance. And we're actually going to look at 2 items today on our agenda. One is actually to require it, kind of complaint-driven, and the other is more of a recommendation. And I just would like for you to, here we are, I remember the chart we looked at last week, looked like there might be a slight hope of a decline from the week before to that week, and now it looks like we got 3 steady weeks of, we may have slowed down a little bit, but we're growing by 150 or so a week. So I just want to know where as we consider that recommendation today, those 2 possibilities, what is your recommendation?
Well, I believe that a mask mandate would be good. I think it would, the science has shown that the masks work. How people comply, I think we're going to have to, I don't know, I think your question was a recommendation, or I think it's going to take, it's up to people to do the right thing. And, we can't make everyone do that. We just have to, that's what we're trying to educate population that, the mask works, the vaccine works. And I have seen for the most part, especially inside the city of Winston-Salem, that a lot of people are doing the right thing. Because I think they've seen where the uptick in cases, where it's affected them personally.
So you would be in favor of our ordinance change to require masks for a 30-day period?
I think, are you, if we're talking about the semantics of required versus recommended, is
Yes.
that what we're, I think that's going to
Just
be,
in the unincorporated areas of Forsyth County.
I think that's going to be up to you, to make that decision. I know that it's, you know, you can't really enforce this, and I don't think we need to get into the situation where, is a penalty or anything like that. I think it's up to the citizens, to do the right thing, which is to wear the mask.
Thank you.
Additional questions, comments?
One question, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir, go right ahead.
First of all, thank you, Joshua, for always updating us with data we can use for our deliberations. I was in a meeting yesterday at the Piedmont Tri-Regional Council, and Stokes County got about $20,000 for attacking the resistance within the county to take the vaccinations. It's called Hard to Reach. And so my first question was, where's our share for Forsyth County? And they said we had too many people vaccinated to qualify, which I found a little bit amusing because I know that within the African-American community, it's about a 37% overall, vaccination. But I hope we can get some of those funds. I made the inquiry. You maybe hear something about that when you come back from your deserved vacation. And happy Labor Day, and enjoy yourself. You're the only man I know that work every Saturday, weekend after weekend after weekend with a smile on your face. So enjoy yourself, and please relax, and we'll see you when you get back.
All right. Thank you, Commissioner Elmy.
Additional questions or comments? If not, we thank you very much, Joshua Swift, Public Health Director. You didn't realize it was going to get this difficult when you first said, yeah, I'd love to do this job. So thank you very much for being with us today. The first item on the agenda today is a public hearing to consider an ordinance, an amendment to the ordinance, and amendments to chapters 4, 5, 6, and 11 of the UDO. It wants to revise the special use provisions and add provisions for cottage courts. The first speaker on this item is Chris Murphy, who is the Planning Development Services Director.
Hi, actually, good afternoon, Chairman Plather and Commissioners. My name is Tiffany White. I'm a project planner for Planning and Development
Well,
Services.
Tiffany, I looked up and I thought, that's not Chris.
It's not. I will be presenting to you today.
Okay, thank you.
I have Chris's backup. So this is a request from Planning and Development Services staff to amend the UDO to revise standards for two areas, the mixed-use special use district, and to add provisions for cottage courts. Some background: in 2020, planning staff prepared a report called Innovative and Land-Efficient Residential Development Regulations to explore strategies for accommodating a greater variety of residential development types. There were many recommendations that came out of this report, but two separate ones that are affected by this UDO proposed amendment include developing a planned unit development, or PUD, ordinance and establishing cottage court standards. There have been reports done for Forsyth County that have identified the need for 15,000 new housing units countywide by 2027 to meet current and future demand. And the Legacy Comprehensive Plan encourages variety in such housing, specifically promoting a mixture of residential densities and types through land use recommendations. So, as I mentioned, that Innovative and Land-Efficient Residential Development Regulations report recommended evaluating a planned unit development, or PUD, program. The UDO code assessment that we did in 2018 also recommended looking at creating a PUD ordinance. PUDs typically include a mix of residential and non-residential uses and allow for design flexibility and innovation. Winston-Salem and Forsyth County actually had a PUD ordinance between 1973 and 1994 when it was replaced with the Planned Residential Development, PRD use, and the Mixed-Use Special Use District provisions. While the MUS district is similar to a PUD, it is not very flexible or user-friendly in its current form. It's not been used a single time since 2006, when several growth management area specific development standards were adopted. Rather than adding yet another use to the UDO, staff proposes modifying the MUS standards to better accommodate PUD concepts by removing unnecessary district standards, removing references to transit-oriented development and traditional neighborhood development, and removing regulations duplicated elsewhere in the UDO, and finally reducing the number of required uses from 3 to 2. A second separate recommendation that came out of that residential development report recommended considering a cottage court ordinance. Cottage courts are developments with small attached or detached housing oriented around a central open courtyard space. In its report, Diversifying Housing Options with Smaller Lots and Smaller Homes, the National Association of Home Builders recommends cottage courts as one of its best practice developments. We researched cottage court standards from across the country. The provisions vary, but most address the pedestrian-oriented neighborhood character, a minimum and maximum number of units, maximum building height or size, how the buildings are oriented around that central courtyard and a minimum size for that courtyard, location and amount of parking, limits on what zoning districts allow this development type, and an increase in allowed density over the underlying zoning. So based on that research, staff is proposing the following ordinance standards: allowing cottage courts in growth management areas 1, 2, and 3, allowing them in most residential and some non-residential zoning districts, a minimum of 4 and a maximum of 14 units per development, a maximum building height of 30 feet to help promote that small-scale residential character, requiring 1 parking space per dwelling unit, which is less than the standard parking requirement, and allowing a 25% density bonus above the underlying zoning. In summary, PUDs and cottage courts are 2 separate development types that were recommended in that report that I mentioned. We believe that the revised MUS standards will be a more effective tool for creating mixed-use development and will allow the creation of PUDs within the county. The adoption of cottage court provisions will expand housing choice in Forsyth County and allow for more efficient residential development. Both provisions will accommodate design concepts that have recently been proposed by developers but which have not been allowed under current UDO standards. And the proposal will further Legacy's recommendation for all housing options for them to better serve community needs. The Planning Board recommended approval of UDO CC8 with a 7-2 vote in February. At the public meeting, there were 6 people that spoke in support and nobody spoke in opposition. And the City Council approved UDO CC8 for their jurisdiction in April. And with that, I am available for questions.
Good job. Any comments or questions for Tiffany?
One question, Mr. Chairman.
Sure.
Would you consider the cottage option and affordable housing construction as well, according to the guidelines of HUD?
So in my research, cottage courts are not specifically an affordable type of unit. They can be used for affordable or mixed income housing. Typically what I saw was through public-private partnerships, community land trusts. I saw Habitat for Humanity doing some of these cottage court type developments as part of their, in and of itself, it can be an affordable option, but it doesn't have to be. And of course, those set building costs are the same for all the building materials regardless, so.
Okay, thank you.
Additional comments or questions? Tiffany, I can't remember when we had a particular cottage court, a case such as this in years. So you did a good job. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
This is a public hearing, and public speakers will have up to 15 minutes to speak in favor of the request or in opposition to the request. And that 15 minutes will be adhered to. Is there anyone here wishing to speak in favor of this request? Is there anyone here who would like to speak in opposition to the request? Well, it's unanimous. We don't have anyone here to speak in favor of or against it. Do I have a motion and a second?
To move.
Yes, sir.
Second.
Motion to approve by Commissioner Don Martin, second by Commissioner Fleming Elamine. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Thanks, Tiffany. The next item on the agenda is a resolution naming September 2021 as Library Card Sign-Up Month in Forsyth County. I'm tickled to death that we're on this one because Forsyth County has a new library in Winston-Salem, a new library in Clemens, and a new library, all in operation in Kernersville. Total cost, $40 million. Brian Hart, Elizabeth Skinner, Yolanda Bolden, and Mary Gunka of the Forsyth County Library System. Are you here? If you are, please come to the front, because the Vice Chairman of the County Commissioners, Don Martin, will join you and welcome you and give you the resolution that he is about to read, as only a superintendent of Forsyth County Schools at one time can do it. Glad you're here.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is a resolution naming September 2021 as Library Card Sign-Up Month in Forsyth County, North Carolina. Whereas Forsyth County recognizes the importance of providing free and equal access to library services, resources, and materials to all residents through the provision and use of a library card. Whereas our nation's libraries and librarians play a vital role in connecting millions of people with the resources they need to live, learn, work, govern, and thrive in the 21st century. Whereas a library card is one of the most important school supplies a student can have. Whereas librarians offer digital and traditional literacy training to persons of all ages to help support school readiness, scholastic achievement, career and workforce development, and entrepreneurial endeavors. Whereas throughout the COVID-19 pandemic, the Forsyth County Public Library and the staff increased its number of registered card holders and continued to provide access to print materials through its to-go library service, made access to digital materials more accessible through an online library card, and provided an array of culturally and educationally enriching experiences to residents through both virtual and in-person events. Whereas library patrons collectively annually visit the library's 10 locations more than 1 million times annually, circulate print materials more than 800,000 times, and download ebooks more than 300,000 times. And whereas this acknowledgement, along with similar celebrities and counties, celebrations in counties across North Carolina and in all 50 states, will increase the awareness and appreciation for the ability of public libraries and the library card to support student success, transform lives, connect people in purpose, and enhance the overall quality of life. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Forsyth County Board of Commissioners hereby recognizes September 2021 as Library Card Sign-Up Month in Forsyth County, North Carolina, and encourages all residents to explore the wealth and resources available at the Forsyth County Public Libraries by registering or renewing their library card, visiting one of our 10 locations, and having their lives change for the better. I'd like to make that motion, Mr. Chairman.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Fleming Elamine. All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries unanimously, Mr. Vice Chairman.
Thank you, sir. Good.
Now, y'all can't go away because we've got to take pictures. I hope we can show these around the world. Who's the speaker for the group? Mr. Hart, would that be you, Ms. Skinner, Ms. Bolden, or all of you? Ms. Junka? Smile, Mr. Martin. Ah, that's great. Well, you have a heart, and we do too. Thank you, sir, for being here.
Am I allowed to speak for a moment?
Oh, by all means, you've got 30, 40 minutes.
All right, well.
I don't blame you for doing that. It's hard to talk with that on.
Yeah, well, thank you. Thank you. And thank you for allowing us to have some time here on the agenda this afternoon. Obviously, as Commissioner Martin stated, since 1987, National Library Card Sign-Up Month has been celebrated in September to mark the beginning of the school year and to note the significance of every student and/or household having access to the invaluable resource that is a library card. In the 3 decades since the first Library Card Sign-Up Month was celebrated, library cards have remained essential school supplies, and libraries themselves continue to evolve and show up in support of the communities they serve. I believe this to be particularly true of Forsyth County Public Library and our team. As the theme for Library Card Sign-Up Month this year is empowerment, we are happy to support school readiness and academic achievement with access to print and digital materials. We also offer an array of classes and events such as job and career counseling, fitness and nutritional literacy programs, art exhibits, author visits, informative panel discussions, and well, the list goes on. And so I encourage all who are bearing witness to this moment to visit their neighborhood or nearest library location to enjoy the wonderment of the various services and collections that we have to offer. Thank you, Chairman Plyler, for this opportunity. And I also want to extend a note of gratitude and thank you to Mrs. Sloop for her assistance in helping me to prepare this resolution for you all today. So thank you again for your support. And that's that.
Mr. Hart, you did a great job. Congratulations.
Thank you, sir.
And now we come to the part that we've all been waiting for, the people in this room. By the way, if you want to speak now, we're going to do the public session. You'll have 5 minutes to speak, but this session is going to have 30-minute maximum time on it, so you've got plenty of time to talk. If you haven't filled out a card, you can get a card in the lobby. Just run right out or walk right out if you want to. Pick up the card, put down your name and telephone number, and give it to Ashley Sloop to my right with a smile on her face. She's the clerk to the Forsyth County Board of Commissioners, and she has total control from here on out. We have telephone calls for the public session.
Mr. Chairman, we have 7 callers and 8 cards.
Oh, holy mackerel, that's good, okay.
Would you like to start with the callers?
Yes, sir. Yes, ma'am, I'm sorry, I know better.
You are now available. Thank you.
Thank you for calling the Forsyth County Board of Commissioners Public Session Line. This session is for comments only, and questions cannot be answered. Please state your name and address for the record.
My name is Dr. Howard Flock. I live in Clemens.
What is your address, sir?
4478 Moritalk Lane. That's in Clemens.
Thank you. Speakers will be limited to 3 minutes each, and a 30-second warning will be given. You may begin.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. My name is Dr. Howard Flock. I'm a semi-retired physician, and I implore you to establish a masking order for inside venues. As a matter of fact, if I had an email address, I could send you an article that was printed in JAMA yesterday, which is actually a reprint of a previous article, which shows scientific evidence that inside masking actually helps slow down the spread of the virus. We're going through a very bad time, as you know. In fact, an attorney, whose name I won't mention because of privacy concerns, finished his inoculations 9 months ago and is now in the hospital and has been on a ventilator for 2 to 3 weeks with COVID pneumonia. The only way we're going to get this under control is if we observe things like masking, which has absolutely no side effects whatsoever. I have a daughter who is a nurse in a pediatric hospital in the ICU in Texas, and the news doesn't play it, but the reality is that now kids are dying, and this is really, really a shame. I hope you gentlemen and ladies will do the right thing. We really do need an inside masking order. Thank you for your time.
You are now available. Thank you.
Hello, will you please cut the volume down on your device?
If we observe things like masking, which has absolutely no side effects whatsoever. I have a daughter
Okay,
Thank you. Thank you for calling.
thanks.
Thank you for calling the public session line. This session is for comments only and questions cannot be answered. Please state your name and address for the record.
Betsy Nowell, 166 Old March Road in Advance.
Thank you. Speakers will be limited to 3 minutes each, and a 30-second warning will be given. You may begin.
Hello, my name is Betsy Nowell, and I live at 166 Old March Road in Advance. I want to thank you for the opportunity to share my concerns about the proposed event center site. I disagree with the proposed site and believe it would be a terrible fit at the stable area. This is basically a pleasure barn, and the proposed facility would only spoil the current operation as well as the peaceful, tranquil surrounding walking trail. My mother and I have had horses at Tanglewood Stables for 48 years. My mother's horse lives in the pasture that's to be taken if the proposal goes through. He's half blind and would have to be moved to a different boarding facility if he lost his pasture. My horse has a history of gastric ulcers, which is brought on by stress or noise. He couldn't safely stay in the barn or the pasture beside the proposed event center. He had an episode when they built the new fences, so I can't imagine the stress that will be caused by the construction and the operation of this event center. I doubt other boarders would keep their horses in the barn or pasture beside the proposed facility either. These two pastures are the only grass pastures that are not in a floodplain. They're used for all horses on a rotating basis when the other pastures are flooded. This area is a beautiful, tranquil green space where walkers, bikers, horses, children, and dogs happily coexist. I'm stopped on a daily basis by walkers and bikers that are strongly opposed to an event center on this site. If you had placed a sign at the proposed location, I believe you would have more negative comments than you could sort through. An event center would destroy this peaceful natural area, which is enjoyed by residents from Forsyth and all surrounding counties. Someone has questioned several of our boarders about using the covered ring inside the proposed event center. First of all, the large ring at the proposed site was donated at great expense by a handful of families, including my mother, for use by the Tanglewood boarders. Covered and enclosed rings are noisy due to birds, outside noises, debris hitting the roof, drain pipes, and the occasional raccoon. I have never had a horse that wasn't frightened by a covered or enclosed arena. Not only would an enclosed arena be useless to many of the boarders, it would ruin the donated arena we already have. From the construction to the ongoing events, this area would never be peaceful again. I encourage you to consider moving this event center to a location outside of Tanglewood Park, and I thank you for your time.
She still had 30 seconds to go.
You are now available. Thank you.
Thank you for calling the Forsyth County Board of Commissioners public session line. The session is for comments only and questions cannot be answered. Please state your name and address for the record.
Joy Williams, 5059 Butterfield Drive.
Thank you. Speakers will be limited to 3 minutes each, and a 30-second warning will be given. You may begin.
Thank you, Ashley. Thank you. Board of Commissioners and Chairman Plyler, I am so excited to be before you again, although it is via telecommunication this time. The last meeting that we had over the ARPA funds, Commissioner Tanya McDaniel was there, and as we were discussing as a group, she rightfully implored me to just pause and be thankful for this opportunity and the commitment, the 80% commitment that the Board of Commissioners placed on this ARPA funding. So I'm coming before you with some of my participants in these meetings to just say thank you. Thank you for this commitment. Thank you for the opportunity that the county has to bond together across races, economic status, employment status, to be able to make a huge, unprecedented difference. And this difference can come to the most vulnerable of our county. So thank you, thank you, thank you. And I wish that I could be before you in person to tell you that I'm in an all-day training, so that's why I'm not before you. And I also just wanted to let the public know that I fulfilled my commitment of sending the criteria, the rationale, the barriers, and solution that some of us came up with in these meetings. And it's displayed, and hopefully people that will view it online will be able to go over this. It's not a complete list, it's just a start, but we are excited to partner with the county again over this unprecedented opportunity. So again, I just want to say thank you.
She had 1 minute left.
I am finished.
You are now available. Thank you.
Thank you for calling the Forsyth County Board of Commissioners Public Session Line. This session is for comments only, and questions cannot be answered. Please state your name and address for the record.
My name is Katie Coleman. I live in Schumann Street at 27101.
Thank you. Speakers will be limited to 3 minutes each, and a 30-second warning will be given. You may begin.
Hi, Commissioners. I'm Katie with the local housing group, Housing Justice Now. We thought you might be interested in hearing what our group is continuing to see in regards to the eviction crisis. We continue to see families lose in court and get evicted while they are in the process of applying for emergency rental assistance. We're still seeing people come into court who have not even heard of the program. The Department of Treasury has released guidance and memos repeatedly urging counties and cities to do everything they can to ensure that federal aid money is distributed to the community quickly and properly. One of the many recommendations is that trained staff are present at eviction court to assist tenants with the application process. This was happening in Forsyth County for a short period of time. Why have we not seen DSS back in the government center as the eviction numbers continue to grow? We know they can no longer be inside the court, but the government center has plenty of space. We are outside and in the lobby talking to tenants daily. Please ensure that county government employees are working as one efficient team across departments, ensuring the success of this program. Having DSS in the court made a big difference. People were able to have their questions answered and have help navigating the complex application process. They also saw that their government was invested in ensuring that people who have borne the brunt of the COVID crisis do not continue to suffer. Their suffering is avoidable. There's money available to alleviate it. Please ensure that DSS gets back in the courts and make sure that people get the money that is intended for them before they get evicted. Thank you for your time.
You've had some excellent comments during this public session.
You are now available. Thank you.
Thank you for calling the Forsyth County Board of Commissioners Public Session Line. This session is for comments only, and questions cannot be answered. Please state your name and address for the record.
Jillian Seacrease, zip code is 27127.
What is your address, ma'am?
Combined? I don't want to disclose that. 2524 Tanglewood Place.
Will you repeat your address, please?
2524 Tanglewood Place.
Thank you. Speakers will be limited to 3 minutes each, and a 30-second warning will be given. You may begin.
Combined, Winston-Salem, Forsyth County received $120 million in federal stimulus funds, marked to help local governments build back better post-pandemic. Our city and county pre-pandemic were ranked within the top 20 municipalities nationally for evictions. During COVID, we saw the crisis of evictions grow. Tenants faced unprecedented unemployment and loss of income, exacerbating the economic disenfranchisement in our city and county. Rental aid distribution has been a problem throughout the county, but some places have figured out how to do it well and how to get the money out quickly to the people who need it. In cities and counties across the U.S., emergency rental assistance programs have been successful due to local governments and courts working together to avoid impediments to fund distribution. Examples enacted elsewhere include making landlords apply for emergency rental assistance funds before they may file an eviction, mailing the emergency rental assistance application information in the mail with the eviction summons, or requesting the courts delay eviction hearings until the emergency rental assistance money has been distributed. Courts and local officials must communicate clearly and effectively as a team if there is any hope of allaying and avoiding additional mass suffering for Forsyth County's rental families, further uprooting and destabilizing communities. There are so many more ways that you all, as the governing body of this county, could truly address and remedy a litany of these issues. You have the power to reduce and address the suffering faced by your constituents, so please prioritize the emergency rental assistance program and ensure that families who have already been under the heel of COVID-19 are not further crushed because you, their elected representatives, failed to prioritize them. I yield my time.
She had some help. I don't know exactly what the dog said, but he was right in there with her, wasn't he? I can picture a little tiny dog.
You are now available. Thank you.
Thank you for calling the Forsyth County Board of Commissioners public session line. This session is for comments only and questions cannot be answered. Please state your name and address for the record.
Daniel Rose, 2054 Craig Street, Winston-Salem.
Thank you. Speakers will be limited to 3 minutes each, and a 30-second warning will be given. You may begin.
Greetings. Thank you for allowing me to speak. I would like to discuss the eviction crisis here in Forsyth County. As you may know, the eviction moratorium has been thrown out, and hundreds, if not thousands, of renters are at immediate risk of eviction here in Forsyth County. We are asking, I'm a member of Housing Justice Now, and we are asking the Board of Commissioners to take decisive legislative action to prevent evictions that are going on here in Winston-Salem and all around the county. We know from the United Way that the numbers of people sleeping on the streets in Winston-Salem have gone up from just dozens before the pandemic every night to now hundreds every night are sleeping on the streets here in Winston-Salem. And you know it if you've walked through downtown or any low-income neighborhood here. Other cities, other counties around the country are doing emergency legislation to require landlords to seek ERAP assistance. The city of Philadelphia, for example, requires before a landlord can even file an eviction that they work with the tenant to apply for emergency rental assistance funds. And so doing that in Forsyth County could avert, again, hundreds, if not thousands of evictions here in the coming months. The ERAP program here in Winston-Salem and Forsyth County has been slow to roll out. It has only in Forsyth County given out about 25% of the money. You have this money, millions of dollars at hand right now that is not getting into tenants and landlords' hands that need it to sustain their property, to sustain their lives. And so I'm asking you to pass emergency legislation to require landlords and tenants to be able to get ERAP assistance before evictions can proceed. It's in the interest of landlords to require that money. It's in the interest of tenants who require those homes. And you have not done enough as the county commission to avert this eviction crisis. Winston-Salem is one of the worst in the nation, number 16 for evictions per capita, more than New York, Chicago, LA. We are in a crisis here locally, and we are counting on you, as it is a county-level issue, the county-level courts, and you can pass legislation to require these evictions to go through rental assistance before they can be handed down. Thank you for your time.
You are now available. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, we only had 6 callers.
So we have completed the circle.
We have completed the phone calls for
Now
the
we go
public
to
session.
the live audience in living color on Channel 13.
David Villada, will you please come forward and state your address for the record?
You could come to the front, sir, and stand in front of the microphone so we can all clearly hear it. All we need to get from you is your name and address. You've been here quite a while. You got here a half hour before our meeting even started.
Thank you, and yes, sir. I got here right after you.
Right, that's
So we're in
true.
the business. David Vallada, 1411 Golson Avenue. Quick, gentleman was touching on some bases, follow quarter about the, you guys being able to really look into it. I know you guys are the professionals and got the data. There's a lot of families being evicted out there. Yes, that, they had assistance for a long time and you guys still continue to put it out. But as the rates go up with a positive test, you guys proved it to us, showed it to us today, why are we taking away the assistance? Please, put it back in there. Coming from the Hispanic community, there's a lot of families suffering. I work with different organizations, and they funded us last year, and we provide a lot of services for the community, especially financial assistance. And the lives that we change dearly, when we talk to them, hear their stories, it's significant enough for me to come up here and ask you, do you guys just have numbers and datas? And then I'm here also as community activist, founder and director of New Life, Nueva Vida. The crime in our streets is ridiculous. As you guys seen, as you guys open, rest in peace, Junior. All this could be prevented. Long time ago, we've been asking for assistance and help. I'm in pain right now because all I've been seeing is murder in my streets. Young boys are dying. You guys got the numbers, and you guys know what to do. Pick and choose us. Make us an assembly line. Give us the tools and give us the work, and we'll make it happen. We'll give you a finished product. Commissioner Naomi, we've been working with these streets with these kids for too long. We do have success stories, and we have ways to make it happen, but we don't have the tools and we don't have the resources. Why are we sitting here looking for a way after the situation when we could have been doing preventive stuff? I have a program called Beating Up Bad Habits. We take kids off the streets, we put them in a boxing program, off the streets in a productive, safe place, and we give them resources, we mentor them, we refer them to mental health. We do what we got to do because we can't be there 24/7, but they got a broken home they go to, they got a messed up community they go to. And all we ask is for assistance. We know these kids. We know the problems and the issues. We just need y'all as professionals to give us the work. Y'all be the board. Y'all be the chairmans. You guys are who you are. You got power, sir. I got other organizations, other brothers with me here. We do this every day, every week. Commissioner, you know, I speak to you. Brother, y'all too, please. Stand up and let them know who we are, what we do. We can't provide, we can't be successful. We don't have the tools, we don't have the resources. I ask you, please, I beg every single one of you, as God is my witness. I'm tired of the murders. I'm tired of the senseless blood in our streets. I grew up in Bridgeport, Connecticut, seeing murders.
You have 30 seconds, David.
I really got more. You know what? Thanks to my speakers before me, they didn't complete all their minutes, but I respect your minutes. Please, help us. Give us a solution. Let us give you a finished product. Let us be your assembly line. Put us to work. Give us the sources that we need, and we will give you a product. Ask about me. I put peace in the streets of the Hispanics on the south side of Winston-Salem for almost a whole year amongst all the Spanish gangs in this city. All the Sureños have come to peace. When's the last time y'all heard of a murder or a drive-by gang related on the south side of Winston-Salem? Give me my duties and put me to work.
Thank you, David. It's very emotional, but you made your point very, very well. Mrs. Sloop.
Ann Gould, please come forward.
And if you would give us your name and address, please, ma'am.
I may need a second to just catch my breath.
That's okay. Take your time. We're going to be here as long as you want us to.
It was very emotional.
It was.
My name is Ann Gould, and I live, sorry, I'm still getting. I live at 2078 US Highway 64 East in Mocksville, North Carolina. I'm here to talk about the Tanglewood proposed multi-use event center. My name is Ann Gould, and I have either ridden horses or owned horses
Take your time.
At Tanglewood for 24 years. And you might think that I'm a rich horse owner, but I'm really not. And if it weren't for a place like Tanglewood, I would not be able to afford to own a horse. It's an oxymoron to say there's a rich horse owner. You don't put those two words together. So if you've gathered, I'm absolutely against any type of event center at Tanglewood Park. I'm there at least 5 or 6 times a week taking care of my horses. I know they're safe. They're safe there. It's quiet. There's no development. The stress and worry of what might come has made me physically ill worrying about my boys. The last thing I want to do is say goodbye to a place that's been my second home for a quarter of a century. I want to talk about the Tanglewood Equestrian Association. That term has come up in the news, and I want to let you know that that group is completely disbanded. They are no longer in operation. They were instrumental in bringing the last steeplechase to the park, and unfortunately it lost a lot of money. So to use the name of that group as an excuse for there are people who support this is not correct. If you would like to help the horse community in any way, you could use that money for a number of things. And it doesn't have to be the horse community. It could be all of people who go to Tanglewood. You could, for example, put in signage on the horse trails to keep joggers from running up the backs of our horses. You could train your staff at the front gate to look at our negative coggins of the horses that are brought in. You could have maintenance do a weekly run-through on the horse trails to clear off fallen debris.
You have 30 seconds.
You could look into and improve the current structure of the barns, 2 of which qualify to be on the National Historic Registry. There's a lot of ideas for how to improve the park, but don't build this. Don't ruin, don't fix it if it ain't broke. It ain't broke, it's beautiful. Just leave it alone. Please listen to your voters and listen to the community.
Thank you, ma'am. Very good job. Mrs. Sloop.
Martine Sherrill, will you please come forward?
Martine Sherrill. I see you. Here she comes. Take your time. All we want to hear is your name and address, and you've got 3 solid minutes to speak.
Martine Sherrill, 1950 Cliffside Drive. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to express my opinions on this. I'm also speaking about the multi-event center in Tanglewood. I don't have property anywhere near Tanglewood, and I don't own horses there, but I do use the park. And I know a lot of people that do. And the reason they go there is because of the peace and tranquility and the trees. And from what I've heard here today, and what we all know what's going on in the world today, I don't think we can value enough having a beautiful expanse of green, peaceful land that we can go to and get relief. And that we don't have to worry about trespassing on someone else's property. We don't have to worry about hunters. It's beautiful. We don't have urban noise. And it's something that's very rare and something that's going away in this area. Development is eating up all the available green land, the trees that we need trees. There are wonderful things about the park that people go there for. One is the horses and the wildlife. People just enjoy going there and seeing the horses and seeing someone riding a horse. And there's also the opportunity, a very inexpensive opportunity, that people can actually ride horses themselves there. And there's not many places you can do that anymore. The event building is a nice idea, but the siting is all wrong. This is not the right place for it. A good example, I went there yesterday just to see where the area was that they were planning on putting it in. And I drove around the park, and I saw next to the small chapel and the old cemetery, the big brick building for the golf complex. And I said, that could not be worth citing. That was poor planning. It ruins the ambiance of that area. So I believe this can be done better. There's not much more that I have to say except that I did talk to people when I was there at the park, and I've talked to a lot of my friends. I talked to people who rode bikes there, people who are pushing strollers, people walking dogs. No one thought this was a good idea. They did not want to lose the trees. They did not want to lose that big green pasture, that area, which is one of the few areas that the public can actually walk on that's not the restricted golf course.
You have 30 seconds.
The restricted BMX track, the floodplain. Please don't take this area away. It's very important to keep it. Please don't pave paradise and put up a parking lot. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. I remember when I came back from the Philippines, the first thing I did was take my wife out to the Manor House and spend a couple of nights there. Mrs. Sloop.
Robin Williams, will you please come forward?
Here she comes. And Ms. Williams, when you get to the podium, if you would please give us your name and address, and you have 3 solid minutes.
Hi, I'm Robin Williams. I live at 559 Maidstone Lane in Clemens. This year, Forsyth County has launched 2 new public parks. One at Shalford Crossing, 246 acres. It's talked about historic preservation of the site with walking trails and access to river canoeing and a park for passive use. Number 2, Beluza Lake is going to be have a park for 216 acres. And I got this information from reading the paper, will be developed with walking trails, picnic areas, canoe and kayak access, developed with less intensive park activities on the passive side. It's clear that what people want in a public recreational park is passive use. Historic preservation, natural surroundings, trees, pastures, animals, birds, places to walk and gather in small groups. This past year with COVID, it's brought to the forefront the need for places like this where people can get outside, get together in small, safe, open spaces. My husband talked to somebody who his wife is very sick, and he goes out there every day to just have some peace to himself, and so he can go back and deal with his wife's illness. Tanglewood Park is for recreation. The proposed event center is right in the middle of the highly used section of the park. Hundreds of people walk, run, bike, ride horses, camp, and just enjoy peace and quiet and nature every day in this area. And like the previous speaker said, there's so many areas in Tanglewood that are bespoke for different things like golf, and this is the place where you can go and walk and do your own thing. Hundreds of people pass by this area on their way to other parts of the park to play golf or tennis or go swimming, play on the playgrounds, or gather at a picnic shelter. So they would pass by this monstrosity every day, and it would just ruin the ambiance and atmosphere of the park. There's so many reasons why I think this is a bad idea, a bad fit for Tanglewood. If an event center is built, it will destroy the peace and quiet and ambiance of the entire park because of people having to go by it every day. The property value that would be most affected by this would be Tanglewood itself.
You have 30 seconds.
It would devalue what the park offers to everyone who comes to the park. The commissioners are responsible to maintain the value of the park property, public park property. The value of Tanglewood Park is recreation, peace, tranquility, and preservation of green space. We are lucky that we have such a beautiful place where we can enjoy these activities. Tanglewood is not idle land waiting to be developed for the benefit of developers and promoters. Tanglewood is a sanctuary which needs to be preserved and protected for all of us. Thank you.
You did a good job. Thank you, ma'am. Mrs. Sloop.
Amatullah Salim, will you please come forward?
There are two of you. If you could give us your name and address, please, ma'am.
My name is Amatullah Salim. I'm president.
Did you say
of-
Amin?
Amatullah Salim.
Okay, I'm sorry. Go right ahead.
I'm president of the Happy Hill Neighborhood Association. And we are grateful to be able to have the opportunity to show our appreciation to you. Actually, we were grateful to find ourselves in the census tract to apply for this grant because we want to continue doing the work we're doing with our community and especially with children. We all are aware of what happened this week in our schools, and we as artists and residents of Happy Hill have been presenting an arts program each summer for 6 years rather. And this program, we were at the end of our ropes. We didn't know how we were going to continue. Because when you offer children an opportunity to expand their imagination and their creativity, by the time they reach high school, they have something more than just to fight back or to react, knee-jerk reactions, because they have developed within themselves the quality of creating a friendship or creating a way to solve a problem rather than do violence. So we are very grateful to be able to apply for this project, and we want to thank you. We hope that you will bring this kind of opportunity into the community of Winston-Salem because we need it. The communities, as you can see from many of the requests today, we need help. We cannot do it alone. Sometimes you think, I'm out here by myself doing this, but I was so happy to see Ms. McDaniels at one of our programs. We felt, oh, somebody sees us, somebody hears us. So we wish to just to express our gratitude and hope that you will continue to bring in these kind of fundings for the community, for creative arts, for the community adults to begin to learn healthy eating. We have a community garden that these kind of programs support. Everybody wants to dig in the garden, but when you get out there, it costs money to have a garden.
I found that to be true.
Yes, it is. So this grant will help us to continue. It helps our senior citizens. Many of our senior citizens are suffering from high blood pressure and heart trouble and many things. We're healthy eating. We're trying to promote healthy eating. We need tractors. We need shovels. We need to encourage people to eat better. Just these simple things that we can give. We are on the ground level.
18 seconds.
We are on the ground floor in the trenches, and we certainly appreciate your help. Hope you will continue.
Now, before you leave, I want you to take a look over there. The guy with the black mask on, that's Dudley Watts. Make sure he hears this speech again. He's pretty good at stuff like that. Thank you.
Before you leave the podium, can I take a moment of privilege?
Yes, sir. Fleming Elamine does want to speak with you.
Yes. She's our grant writer for this project. Would you like to say a few words?
Yes. Hello, everyone. My name is Abby O'Harris. I live at 5030 Butterfield Drive. And I just want to say the potential positive impact of the American Rescue Plan grant on the neighborhoods in the census tract will really help in going towards the future for this city. In our application, we aim to expand our arts programming to after-school support for student learning loss. And I think that everyone knows here that the impact of the pandemic has been immense, especially on children. And in closing, I just want to say, I hope that you stop the evictions. That's very important for the same people we want to educate. They also need a place to live. Thank you.
You know, before we tell you, I'm going to share something the sheriff of Forsyth County shared with me. He says, I know I have a job to do and I'm going to obey the law, but he says the part of the job I don't like is what you just talked about.
Right,
Evictions. He doesn't like to do that.
right.
Mr.
Thank
Chairman,
you.
can I take a moment of pleasure?
Oh, wait a minute. Fleming Elementary wants to make an encore here. Go ahead.
It's very important that we recognize talent when we have it in our community. I'm going to would you please come to the podium?
Oh, yes.
Many of you may not know, but she's a cultural attaché in our community, a professional dancer for years.
Whoa.
She founded the Otacia Dance Group that still exists today. And what I would call a more advanced year, she still dances. Now, I can't dance, and I'm not quite of that mature age yet, but I'm headed there.
Be
But I want
careful.
the community to realize how important she is to the community, and she's been doing this for decades, not just yesterday. And so she's a stellar cultural icon in our community. And I just want to say thank you while we're on this side of heaven. Thank you very much for your contribution to the community. I'm Matula Saline.
Thank you.
That's the first time I've ever heard anybody say like, after, on a public session, you must be somebody.
Thank you so much.
Thank you again. Mrs. Sloop.
Artemis Peterson, will you please come forward?
Artemis Peterson. If you could come forward, sir, and just give us your name and address. What's that on your, is that a bear?
Yes, bro.
Looks good.
Sometimes I gotta be a bro. Hey, I just like to say peace and blessings. My name is Artemis Peterson. I live at 611 West 13th Street. I'm the founder of Enough is Enough Winston-Salem. We've been in existence for 2 years now, repetitiously into the neighborhoods and all that. Sadly to say, Mr. Williams was one of my mentees, you know what I'm saying? And it really bothers me. And while I'm speaking right now, it's very severe. We can't continue to say what we need to do, when we're gonna do when somebody get hurt. You know what I'm saying? We need to put forth effort right now. You know what I'm saying? And a lot of people that's getting funded with this money, once they get this money, they ain't gone. Our neighborhood's still suffering. You understand what I'm saying? So my point is the appropriate people need to be able to have their hands in or some say so in the presence of this funding when it get initiated or get put out there, for the simple fact though, that's the only way we're gonna be able to make it. We ain't gonna be able to make it if we just give money to anybody because they say they got an organization, and then once they get their money, they ain't held accountable for it. We need accountability. You understand? We need to teach these kids love, trust. It's a lot. We so far it's like a fire. When the fire get to going and going and going, now it's don't spread it. Now everybody want to know how to put this fire out. But when we first had certain murders or incidents that occurred, we could have stepped on that from the beginning. Now it's done blown out where it's going into our schools now. You understand? They funneling gangs from prison to schools. You understand what I'm saying? The gang thing, I'm from here. I never seen gangs be so infested like it is today. They even making their own names up now. You understand what I'm saying? So the resources are very important, but who gets the resources is very greater. You understand? Because at the end of the day, what we do out here, we fight. I'm gonna piggyback right off David because we are boots on the ground. You understand? No, we ain't the big organizations who do that, but we spend our money. We take our money. I repetitively took kids to the mountains to expand their horizon. We got to get them away from them because you come out of a neighborhood and they got guns and they selling drugs, that's the norm. Shooting at night, all that, that's the norm. Our kids, our youth shouldn't have to be accustomed to nothing like that. So at the end of the day, to be able to provide for these kids and put them in a better predicament, we have to have the resources in the right people's hands.
You
You
have
can't
30
say,
seconds.
okay, he all right. Oh, he good. That's my partner. But your partner ain't going into our hoods. The right people need to test the right money so things can be done appropriately. We know what needs to be done because we there. Thank you greatly, man.
Good job. Ashley Sloop.
Mr. Chairman, our last speaker is Frankie Gist. Please come forward.
Frankie Giff, good to have you with us. If you give us your name and address, please, sir.
Frankie Gist, 500 West 5th Street. A little bit about me. I don't know if you all are familiar with the work I have done here. I was the lead protester and organizer of the protests that happened here in the city. I'm gonna make the long story short. I can't tell you
how many times I have sat in rooms with mothers and they ask me and say, why my baby? I can't tell you how many times, Dr. Martin, how many times kids looked at me and say, why my daddy won't wake up? Why won't my mother wake up? I can't tell you how many times I have hosted peace gatherings. I have hosted over 200 peace gatherings within this city. And the problem is, and I don't need 3 minutes, the problem is this, and this is the key to the violence. You have to put funding where it matters. There's people getting funding that sit in their offices that are not in these neighborhoods. There are people getting this money that are not taking these kids different places to allow them to see something different beyond Winston-Salem and the hood. I come from the streets. I changed my life around 16 years old. I was looking at 3 years in prison. I've been shot at. I picked up a gun. I kicked in a door. I tried to rob, but I had to learn somebody took the time out here in this city to show me a different way. And you know how they did it? They had the proper funding. All I'm saying to you, it don't have to be my organization that you give the funding to, but you need to do your research. My mom always say, trust but verify. I know you trust some of these organizations that you're putting your money into, but you need to verify their movement. You need to verify their vision and their mission. It's because we are going to continue to bury these kids. We are going to continue to hear mothers cry and scream. We are going to continue to have this violence run rapid in our city. And we are in a spiritual warfare. And if we don't tackle it now, and if you don't get connected to right advocates, right organizations, we are going to fail our children. I have talked to Sheriff Kimber last night. We talked for 2 hours straight. I worked closely with the Sheriff Department and Chief Thompson to help bridge the gap between community and law enforcement.
You have 30
because
seconds.
we're having an issue where the community is not trusting law enforcement anymore. So what do? Watch where you put the funding. Trust, but verify. Peace and blessings to you.
Wow,
Frankie,
good going.
What's your organization's name?
My organization's name is Hope Dealers Outreach. We just celebrated our 10-year anniversary, and HOPE stands for helping other people everywhere. We don't see race, we see the heart.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for being here. I think the first time we've had a applause from the audience when we have these, so I'm glad the folks here listened to what you had to say and appreciate it. Is that it for us, Ashley Sloop? Then we'll turn the meeting over to our county manager, Dudley Watts.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just looking at the clock, we've been at it about an hour and 20 minutes.
You want to take a recess?
Whatever the board wishes.
You all want to take a little recess right quick? We'll take about a 10-minute recess. this particular session. Following this, we'll have a briefing session for the September 16th meeting. Mr. Watts?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good afternoon, board members and staff and guests. We do have some business items for consideration this afternoon. We have reviewed these in briefing sessions and hopefully have answered all your questions, so I'll dive right into it. Items 4 through 8 really are all COVID-related budget ordinance amendments to reflect COVID money. I'll run through them fairly quickly and start with item 4. It's an amendment to the fiscal year 2021-2022 budget ordinance. It appropriates reserve fund balance for COVID-19 response in county departments. It really reports on how the COVID money was spent in FY21. It does create a reserve of $1,221,463.65 for FY22.
Motion?
Move to approve.
Motion to approve by Commissioner Fleming Elamine.
Second.
Second by Commissioner Tanya McDaniel. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Motion carries.
Agenda item 5 is an amendment to the FY21-2022 budget. It increases revenues and appropriations for the Forsyth County Department of Public Health for grant funds from the Z. Smith Reynolds Foundation. It is $20,000. Pretty open use of it, so it will approve it for FY22.
Motion?
Motion to approve.
Motion to approve by Commissioner Tanya McDaniel.
Second.
Second by Commissioner Don Martin. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed, motion carries.
Item 6 is an amendment to the FY 2021-22 budget ordinance. It appropriates additional funds for epidemiology and laboratory capacity, which is ELC, enhancing detection activities, in the amount of $3,415,077.
Motion?
Move to approve.
Motion to approve by Commissioner Fleming Elamine.
Second.
Second by Commissioner Tanya McDaniel. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed, motion carries.
And item 7 is an amendment to the FY 21-2022 budget ordinance. It increases revenues and appropriations for the Department of Public Health for epidemiology, communicable disease branch funding from the North Carolina Department of Health and Human Services in the amount of $97,300.
Motion?
Move to approve.
Motion to approve by Commissioner Tanya McDaniel.
Second.
Second by Commissioner Don Martin. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed, motion carries.
Item 8 is an amendment to the budget ordinance to increase revenues and appropriations for the Forsyth County Department of Public Health for the Women's and Children's Health Children Youth Branch funding from North Carolina Department of Health and Human Services, the amount of $115,000, and it will fund COVID-19 screening, testing, and response activities.
Motion?
Move to approve.
Motion to approve by Commissioner Fleming Elamine, second by Commissioner Tanya McDaniel. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries.
Item 9 is an amendment to the 2020 Schools Capital Maintenance Capital Projects Ordinance. It transfers funds from the 2020 PAYGO Capital Projects Ordinance for the ventilation improvements in the amount of $500,000.
Motion?
Approval.
Motion to approve by Commissioner Gloria Whizenhunt.
Second.
Second by Commissioner Fleming Elamine. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed, motion carries.
Item 10 is an amendment to the fiscal year 2021-2022 budget ordinance. It adjusts the number of authorized positions in the sheriff's office. It will essentially convert 3 part-time positions into 1 full-time position, which is a domestic violence investigator that will work in the Family Justice Center.
Motion?
Move to approve.
Motion to approve by Commissioner Fleming Elamine, second by Commissioner Tanya McDaniel. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries.
And item 11 is an amendment to the 2020 Motor Vehicle and Mobile Equipment Replacement Capital Projects Ordinance, and appropriates the annual transfer from the general fund and additional revenue for charges and services, insurance proceeds. Essentially sets up that multi-year fund that we have that we buy and replace vehicles out of. Total amount for this year will be $2,143,172.50.
Motion?
Move to approve.
Motion to approve by Commissioner Richard Linville.
Second.
Second by Commissioner Don Martin. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries.
We have 3 grants. The first one is item 12. It's a resolution authorizing the acceptance of 1 North Carolina and Rural Division Building Reuse Grant funds from the North Carolina Department of Commerce. It supports Ardagh Metal Beverage USA Incorporated. You got the associated budget ordinance amendment, which will appropriate the state funds in the amount of $750,000.
Motion.
Move to approve.
Motion to approve by Commissioner Fleming Elamine.
Second.
Second by Commissioner Tanya McDaniel. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries.
Item 13 is a resolution authorizing the acceptance of a federal Homeland Security grant program awarded to the Emergency Management Department from the North Carolina Department of Public Safety Division of Emergency Management. You got the associated budget ordinance amendment. This is for that portable underwater sonar device we talked about last year. There's some additional grant funding, so we pushed that purchase into this year. The amount is $28,415.08.
Motion.
Move approval.
Motion to approve by Commissioner Gloria Whizenhunt. Second by Commissioner Ted Kaplan. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed, motion carries.
And finally, item 14 is a resolution authorizing the execution of the necessary documents to apply for and receive a grant from the Winston-Salem Foundation for improvements at the Arboretum at Tanglewood Park. This is $15,000, and this irrigation project has been over a couple of years and will continue over a couple more, but this will take care of this
Motion.
phase of it.
Move to approve.
Motion to approve by Commissioner Fleming Elamine.
Second.
Second by Commissioner Don Martin. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries.
All right, we've got some contracts. Item 15 is a resolution authorizing a contract between Forsyth County and Resource Institute Incorporated for engineering and design of repairs to streams and drainage ways affected by Hurricane Florence and subsequent flooding. This is $130,000 not to exceed amount to Resource
Motion.
Institute.
Move for approval.
Motion to approve by Commissioner Richard Linville.
Second.
Second by Commissioner Don Martin. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries.
Item 16 is a resolution authorizing the purchase of defibrillators and Lucas chest compression system devices for emergency services quick response vehicles. It'll buy 3 defibrillators for $112,000 and 3 Lucas devices for
Motion.
$46,000.
Move approval.
Motion to approve by Commissioner Gloria Wizenhunt.
Second.
Second by Commissioner Fleming Elamine. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries.
All right, item 17 is a resolution authorizing an execution of an agreement between Forsyth County and Spatial Data Consultants Incorporated for the digitizing historical aerial imagery of Forsyth County and the associated services, not to exceed $126,637. It will digitize images from 1951 through 1994, and we expect about 46,000 images to be, 4,600 images.
Move to approve.
Motion to approve by Commissioner Fleming Elamine.
Second.
Second by Commissioner Tanya McDaniel. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed, motion carries.
And item 18 is a resolution ratifying and authorizing execution of an interlocal agreement between Forsyth County and Winston-Salem Transit Authority, provisions of non-emergency medical-related transportation to Medicaid-eligible recipients. It will buy 200 units, not to exceed $22.57 per unit.
Motion.
Move to approve.
Motion to approve by Commissioner Tanya McDaniel.
Second.
Second by Commissioner Fleming Elamine. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries.
Item 19 is also an interlocal agreement with the same agency. It will buy 1,800 monthly bus passes, 650 10-ride bus passes, and 2,000 one-ride passes for $35,500.
Motion.
Move to approve.
Motion to approve by Commissioner Tanya McDaniel.
Second.
Second by Commissioner Don Martin. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries.
All right, you've got the refunds. Item 20 is a resolution approving refunds by the tax assessor and collector in an amount of $1,301.18.
Motion.
Approval.
Motion to approve by Commissioner Gloria Whisenhunt.
Second.
Second by Commissioner Fleming Elamine. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries.
You got 4 reports. You've got the Human Resources Report for the month of June and July of 2021. You've got the contribution-based benefit cap report for the month of July. And then you've got the quarterly fuel surcharge report for our franchise solid waste providers. It goes up, not surprisingly, 11 cents.
Motion.
Move to receive the reports.
Motion to receive the reports by Commissioner Richard Linville.
Second.
Second by Commissioners Tanya McDaniel and Don Martin. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed, motion carries.
Item 25, we have talked about through a number of cycles of meetings. It is a resolution authorizing the publication of an offer to purchase a portion of county-owned real property by negotiated offer advertisement upset bid procedure. It is 651 North Highland Avenue. It's 1.3 acre parcel. The bid proposed by Highland Homes is $126,000. Kirby is here if you want him to present once again the details of that, but I believe you know it.
Do you want to hear Kirby once again?
No.
There's not a person on this board wants to hear Kirby. Don't hope your feelings aren't hurt, Kirby. Do I hear a motion?
Move to approve.
Motion to approve by Commissioner Fleming Elamine.
And second.
Second by Commissioner Tanya McDaniel. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries unanimously.
In all seriously, the General Services staff.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
to clarify if I'm hearing right, I'm opposed to 25.
25 would be the Highland Avenue.
Yes.
Then make that 6-1.
Make it,
to
I'm opposed
6-2.
also. We didn't have an opportunity to vote.
So Commissioners Wizenhunt and Commissioner Linville both voted against it, but still in all, we have 5 commissioners who voted for it.
Okay, very good, thank you. All right, and I did want to thank Kirby and General Services and Chelsea and.
It's a shame Kirby couldn't speak again.
Did a great. You'll hear from him in the future, no worries.
worries. All right, so item 26 is also an added item. You've got two options. I'll just turn it over to Gordon, who has worked with you to try to get this in front of you in this format.
Thank you, Mr. Manager. What you have before you, Commissioners, are two different options relating to face coverings, which we commonly call masks. As you know, in the past 2 months, due to the Delta variant, the incidence of COVID cases and hospitalizations have gone up dramatically. Effective August 20th, 2 weeks ago, the City of Winston-Salem instituted a mask mandate throughout the City of Winston-Salem. The option one is an amended declaration of a state of emergency that would apply to the unincorporated areas of Forsyth County and would require people, when they are indoors with unrelated folks, to wear masks or face coverings. And there are, of course, a number of exceptions which are listed there. If you look at the document, Section 2, which is entitled Wearing a Face Covering, that is exactly the same as what the city passed, with the exception that it refers to the county, obviously. And this would be in effect beginning tomorrow at 5:30 p.m. and would go through September 30th. Of course, the board or the chairman would be free to either end it earlier or extend it as they see fit. So that briefly is option one. Option two is a resolution which would strongly encourage all of the residents of the county to wear face coverings where recommended by the CDC, which of course would be indoors and in crowded outdoor settings. So that is not a mandatory requirement. Those are both before you. The board can vote on one or both or the other or neither. So I'm certainly welcome any questions that you have.
Questions for Gordon?
Chair.
Yes. Commissioner Don
I'm
Martin.
just going to ask Gordon to read section 5 in the first option, because we had a little discussion about how complaint driven to be a part of that language, and I think it's I think it's incorporated into your version, but it was just put in yesterday, and so it's a short, if he wouldn't mind just reading it.
Yes, sir. Section 5 reads, county staff shall seek compliance with the face covering requirement imposed by the submitted declaration of a state of emergency through education, verbal warnings, and written warnings. If voluntary compliance does not remedy the violation, the county may respond to complaints of violations by pursuing other remedies as allowed by law. So that would emphasize, as you said, Mr. Vice Chairman, that the process would be complaint-driven and that it would rely very heavily on education and warnings to achieve compliance.
Yes, thank you.
Further questions, comments?
Yes, so Gordon, for me, could you just confirm that there would still be a compliance portion of this in this resolution, correct? The mandate does have compliance.
Yes, it does.
Okay. And then the second question that I had, I don't see the sheriff or the representative from the sheriff's department, but I asked last week how many citations was given in the previous resolution that we had, the mask mandate. And I want to say 0, but I wanted them to be able to confirm that.
So Commissioner McDaniel, I spoke with Chief Deputy Rocky Joyner, and he said there were 0 citations for face coverings the last time. He did say there were 2 to 3 trespassing citations that occurred because businesses basically asked for that after not having voluntary compliance.
Fair enough. Thank you.
Further questions?
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, ma'am.
I'll just speak to option 2. I think that we have dealt with this for a long time. We've tried mandates, we've tried orders. Folks, I would just like for us to try asking people to wear a mask, asking people to get vaccinated, asking people to try to avoid another shutdown. I don't think small business can survive another shutdown. I don't think our school system, the children could survive another shutdown.
So I would just like to ask our community for all of us to work together, and rather than mandating and putting out orders, just ask folks to do the responsible thing and wear a mask and become vaccinated. I don't think any of us want to see our schools shut down, our churches, or our businesses, and I really believe that if we just go to our constituents and say, let's do this together, let's get rid of this COVID together and work together. I would like to try that method before we mandate.
Well, is that a motion for option 2? Which doesn't call
I
for
can make it a motion for option 2.
Okay, any further discussion? We have a motion on the floor for option 2.
One comment, Mr.
We have a second from Commissioner Richard Linville on option 2. Yes, sir.
Point of clarification here, if I could, please.
Yes, sir.
I had a mother call me about her children concerning this whole face mask phenomena. She has one child in Connellsville and one child in Guilford County. They're both private schools, so. And she said that her child in Guilford County, of course, wears a mask, and every child wears a mask in that location, and they're spaced accordingly. However, her child in Connellsville, she wears a mask, but her peers are not wearing masks, and they're not being spaced properly. So she was concerned about us doing something to ensure that her child was not going to be exposed to this new COVID situation. And so she asked me, what could I do? And I said, all I can do is make a plea to my colleagues that we enforce something across the county line. And since we didn't have any citations written up against people the last time, I think we can trust them not to do the same behavior this time if we have this mandate from the county. But I would expect us to do something more specific in that regard. I think in principle, my colleague, Commissioner Wilson, is right on the mark. We should get cooperation. But this thing has escalated so much that I'm a little concerned that asking will not quite get the job done this time. Thank you very much.
I have one comment and discussion part on this, and that is, I got a number of emails, a few that were saying they were concerned about we need to be wearing masks. I got quite a few that said that we should not, and several sent studies, and I looked at all of them, looked at a couple even others, but one of them in particularly that was sent by someone that was discouraging changing, mandating masks, basically said that the primary reason, it was by a physician at the University of Chicago, they basically said that there've been a lot of tests of masks, and we know that some allow more, if you will, penetration, leakage, whatever it is from what passes through, versus some, the N95s that are the top ones at the hospital. There's a lot of variation. And there have been several studies that have caught, I won't go into the details of what I read, but I will say that the concern is that wearing masks sometimes makes people feel like that makes them safer, when in fact it's social distancing, avoiding large groups in indoor places for a long period of time, the opportunity for exposure, and back to the washing your hands issues, some of the things that we've been talking about. And I certainly agree that masks are not the end-all, be-all of protection by any means. In fact, it's probably on the lower side for a lot of folks. But it does, in fact, even in the worst study I've read, it's still at about 25%. Successful in stopping the virus from leaving from coming out, attaching to water droplets and coming out of your mouth and nose. So I probably think we ought to do the more part, and I do think that there was a lot more compliance after the city did theirs in just stores. I just noticed a lot more people wearing masks, and they were complying with that. I felt, and it's kind of like not, is that, well, because there are a lot of folks that I think Commissioner Wisdom would agree, may not want to change their habits regardless. But it's a tough, I'm really on the fence a little bit on this very issue. And I think it's kind of like a little extra help. Why not go ahead and do it for 30 days, as Dr. Ohl suggested that we do it. And the doctor that called in today, retired on the phone, suggested that we did it. And he certainly described the more, kind of put a point on how severe it is. So I'm really, it's kind of a mixed issue. We need to do something, and we're not seeing much help on voluntary issues, and maybe this sends a message that there's an expectation to wear a mask. And clearly, we're not going to be, the issue I believe you raised, Commissioner Wizenhunt, is that we didn't want our sheriff's deputies going around looking for people with mask violations. And that part about complaint-driven prevents that. It says we're not going to be out going around looking for masks, but if somebody sees it, they're kind and people ask them, then, somebody could actually call. But I'm really torn over this issue. I don't know what the right thing to do is. I think that social distancing, I think staying away, all those things are important, but apparently a lot of people don't. So I don't know how to get people to change their behavior on this. I don't know. Additional comments? As I'm looking at correct me if I'm wrong, Commissioner Wizenhunt, that the motion's on the table, and basically all we're saying is we strongly urge you to wear it, but we're not going to put you in jail or take your money out of your pocket. Am I right?
Well, what my motion is just to encourage. My motion is not a mandate. I think those we've tried mandates, we've tried orders, and I'd like to see us do an encouragement.
I agree with you. So, are you all ready to vote? All in favor of Mrs. Wizenhunt's motion, please raise your hands. 1, 2, 3, 4, and that's a clear majority. So, thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right. That is it for the meeting, the formal meeting part.
Mr. Manager, will you please review number 3?
Review, I'm sorry.
Will you please review number 3?
Number 3.
Is that the approval of minutes? Okay. Next item on the agenda is approval of minutes for the meeting of August 19th.
I'd like to make a motion, we approve the minutes.
Motion made by Commissioner Don Martin, second quickly by Commissioner Fleming Elamine. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
Very good. So, and I'll look to the clerk. Do we need a couple minutes break to switch over the system? So we don't need a long break, but if we could have about 3 minutes.
All right, we'll take 3 minutes and 42 seconds.
All right.
County Board of Commissioners. I'm going to turn this meeting over to Dudley Watts.
All right, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good afternoon. So we do have some business items to introduce for this September 16th meeting. We'll go ahead and dive into it because I know Chris Murphy needs to pick his son up from football practice. So, so we'll do the important work and then he can leave. So the first one is a public hearing on an ordinance amendment proposed by Edward Nichols modifying section 5.42E. I'm just going to turn it over to David Reed. So.
Chairman, members of the board, try and get this show up here. And before I jump into the presentation, I'd like to read the definition of turkey shoot. Turkey shoot is a match or contest for prizes, usually a turkey or a ham, at which participants fire shotguns at a fixed target. So with that, I'll jump into the request summary. The petitioner is Edward Nichols, and the request is to amend two sections of the UDO to amend the use conditions and definition for the temporary use turkey shoot. See if I can advance here.
Any discussion?
The regulations for the temporary use turkey shoot were established in 1967 and have not been revisited since that time. And the discharge of firearms is currently prohibited in Winston-Salem, and therefore turkey shoot permits are only available outside the city limits. Forsyth County has restrictions regarding the discharge of firearms near occupied dwellings or structures without the written permission of the occupants. Staff reviewed the proposed text amendment language and compared it with the current regulations in other nearby jurisdictions. We also applied the proposed setbacks to several properties in Forsyth County and suggested changes to the applicant that would be more appropriate and in some cases more enforceable. So in general, the proposed ordinance changes are to change the minimum site size from 3 to 5 acres, increase the distance from the firing point to the property line from 200 to 300 yards for sites not using an earthen backstop, increase the side setback from 20 feet to 300 feet, change the duration of the permit from 60 days with the possibility of 2 renewals to 90 days per year with no renewal for another year. And then finally, changing the definition of turkey shoot to only accommodate shotguns. And right now, the definition includes pistols and rifles. This is a little chart we put together showing some of the requirements in our surrounding counties to show that kind of this proposal is similar to what's the regulations in other areas. And then the last 2 columns is kind of a graphic example of what I just went through, where it shows minimum acreage would change from 3 to 5, the distance to the property line, the direction of fire. Oops. Jumped on me there. Would move from 600 to 900 feet if they don't have a backstop. The side yard would go from 20 to 300 feet, and the firearm limitation would remain the same, shotguns only. The hours of operation would remain the same. The length and duration of permit would change from 60 days with 2 renewals for a total of basically 6 months to 90 days once a year. It would still be considered a temporary use, still allowed in the same zoning districts. And then the final note is that we would change the definition section to eliminate pistols and rifles. The permits for 2 sites have been granted for turkey shoots over the past 10 years. One was a recurring event in the town of Walkertown from 2011 through 2017, and the location of that event would meet the requirements of the proposed text amendment language. A second permit was issued in December of 2020, and that site would not comply with the proposed standards as it is smaller than the proposed 5-acre minimum site size and probably would not, they would have trouble meeting the new side setbacks as well. So in summary, in examining the current regulations, what is proposed by the applicant strikes a good balance and puts our regulations more in line with our peer communities. As Forsyth County continues to experience suburban growth, the proposed regulations will provide better protections for surrounding residential properties while still allowing the temporary turkey shoot use throughout areas of Forsyth County that meet the criteria. After discussion, the Planning Board revised the proposed duration of the permit
from what was originally proposed by the petitioner of 60 days. They changed it to 90 days, and that change has been incorporated in what was submitted to you. The Planning Board held its virtual public hearing on August 12th, and both proponents and opponents of the amendment spoke at the hearing. Then the Planning Board voted unanimously to recommend approval of this text amendment. So I'll try and answer any questions.
This comes as the result of a problem in Walkertown or near Walkertown, I think, correct?
I think there's a site in the southeast part of the county.
Right. Any questions or comments?
One question, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir.
You use the expression earthen background. What is that?
Yeah, earthen berm is you build up a earthen berm of at least 20 feet high that is behind your targets. So when you shoot, the pellets would go into that earthen berm rather than traveling on into space.
Yeah,
So
that
it's
was
sort of a backstop.
That was the problem, I think.
Didn't have that before.
I have two questions. One, my technology has failed me at the moment. I have a paper cut, but I'm not seeing that chart. Do you know if that chart was in your, I looked through this online yesterday, but I kind of don't remember that chart.
It should be in there as part of our
maybe it
paperwork.
is
If
on
not,
the
we'll
online
send it
part.
out after the meeting.
It's not in the hard
So
copy.
y'all are not seeing the chart?
Yeah, I'd like to see that. And the question I had, do you recall, I think it's in here, how many people actually, the people actually spoke in the synopsis of the for and against are actually in here? The people who spoke, looks like
Yeah,
it's in this
there are
list.
2 spoke in favor and 2 spoke against the text amendment. at
Okay,
the-
all right.
It should be in the minutes.
Yeah, I think I found it. I think I found that. I did find that. Good, thank you. Got it.
Further questions?
What one, Mr. Attorney would, or Mr. Reed, either one, would discharge of any firearm, no matter what was going on, these regulations apply, not just a turkey shoot itself? Would any discharge of firearm be under these same regulations? In the distance wise?
No, this is just defined for that particular use of a turkey shoot. We have a separate ordinance in the county code. It's 15-3 about being at least 300 feet away from someone's property when you fire a gun. So that would not be changed. This is the specific someone getting a permit to conduct a turkey shoot.
That's all I have for the moment.
Additional comments? Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, David. The second item is a public hearing on the zoning petition of Mark Thompson Sheehan from RS 30 and AG to AG. I'll turn it over to Chris Murphy.
Let me get my show pulled up now. This is technology at its best. Let's see. There we go. Okay. Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman and Commissioners. This is a petition of, it's F-1604, it's a petition of Mark Thompson Sheehan. It's to rezone the 61.22 acres located at the western terminus of Fieldmont Manor Drive. This was part of the original Hawks Nest subdivision that I believe was approved in the early 2000s. The request is to rezone the property from a mix of RS30S, and there's just a little itty bitty piece of AG, back to general use AG. This is the legacy map. The site is shown as the dot there labeled F1604. It's in the GMA4 future growth area. This is to the west-southwest of the village of Tobaccoville and just to the northwest of Bethania. This is a location map showing the subject property highlighted in yellow.
This is an aerial image showing the subject property, again outlined in yellow. You can see where Hawk's Nest was started on the east, Philmont Manor Drive stubs into the subject property zone RS30S. Again, this is an image from Philmont Manor Drive. We're actually in Hawk's Nest on the public street on Philmont Manor Drive, and the subject property is off in the distance where the arrow is pointed. Subject property with the zoning sign shown. This is the area plan map. It's in the Tobaccoville area plan update. And it's just low density residential and large lot residential. It's kind of a mix because you've got the creek that runs through there. But again, the subject property before rezoning back in the early 2000s, all of this was zoned AG. In summary, the request is consistent with the Tobaccoville area plan update. This would generate fewer trips per day than expected under existing zoning. This is consistent with the AG district purpose statement. At their August 12th, 2021 Planning Board public hearing, there was no opposition present, and the Planning Board made a unanimous recommendation for approval. And with that, I'll be glad to answer any questions.
Questions or comments? Not a one, thank you.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, Chris. Good luck getting your son.
Hurry.
That's right.
I've got a few minutes.
Item 3 is a resolution requesting abandonment of a portion of Copeland Road from the North Carolina State Maintained Secondary Road System, and David Reed will review this.
Just FYI, he was. I think Jeremy Gott was on here. I don't know if he still is.
Okay. Okay. Okay, if you can see this graphic. This is a request to adopt a resolution in support of the abandonment from the Ncdot secondary road system. Occasionally, Ncdot reviews their maintenance maps, and they find sections of road that actually have never been opened and have never been maintained, and then they go through a formal process to abandon the maintenance. This is one of those cases. This is a section of road that was never opened. It's unopened public right-of-way. All of the surrounding owners have access onto other roads. No one uses it for access, and all of the surrounding properties are already developed, so there's really no value in opening it for access to properties. It's also would be a bad location, as you can see where it intersects at a bad angle with Stratford Road, very close to Old Sides Mill Road. So there would not be any desire to open it anyway. So staff would recommend that you adopt a resolution in support of them abandoning maintenance of this unopened right-of-way.
Questions or comments?
Yes, so Clemens is to the left.
Correct. Clemens is further west, and actually the new Idles Road extension comes in at the very bottom of the map into Stratford Road there.
Additional comments? Okay.
All right,
Thanks,
thank
sir.
you, Dave. All right, item 4, approval of the minutes for the meeting September 2nd. Obviously, those will be forthcoming. Item 5 is an amendment to the 2019 PAYGO Capital Projects Ordinance that transfers residual funds to the 2018 Smith Reynolds Airport Capital Projects Ordinance for capital maintenance purposes. You got an associated amendment as item B with that. And Christopher Ong was going to review this. I don't see, well, there he is. Okay, I didn't see you in your usual place.
Thank you, Mr. Manager, Mr. Chairman, members of the board, good afternoon. So before you is a request to appropriate funds in the amount of $1,858,756 to be set aside for capital maintenance projects at the airport. This is a two-part action item, the first of which is an amendment to the 2019 PAYGO Capital Projects Ordinance to transfer $308,077 to the 2018 Smith Reynolds Airport CPO. And that $308,000 reflects the residual balance of the $1.9 million that was approved as the matching funds for the U.S. Economic Development Administration grant award to support the airport. The second action is an amendment to appropriate $1,550,679
from the sale of the Lansing Drive property. And so, as well as the residual balance transfer, which would establish a capital maintenance project budget within the 2018 Smith Reynolds Airport CPO. And the purpose of that would be to address high priority capital building repairs on the airport properties. I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Comments or questions?
Just one question, Mr. Chairman.
Sure.
Since it is a capital project, will you be the one making sure we have diversity participation in the contracts?
Yes. I mean, it'll be, all of those projects will be vetted as they go through the procurement process. And, they should, when they get to that threshold of capital, they will be, I believe that is actually written into our procurement policy.
Yes.
Additional comments?
Thank you.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you.
All right, thank you, Christopher. All right, agenda item 6 is an amendment to the FY 2022 budget ordinance that increases revenues and appropriations for the Forsyth County Department of Public Health for Women and Children's Health, Children and Youth Branch funding from North Carolina Department of Health and Human Services. Adam Pendlebury I did not see him in the room, and he probably is online. Adam, are you with us virtually? I do not hear him on the line, so we will make sure that we get that resolved for next Thursday. And so I'll dive on to the next one. Item 7 is an amendment to the 2016 Schools Capital Project Ordinance that authorizes projects as requested by the Winston-Salem Forsyth County Schools Board of Education. Christopher Allen will handle that one as well. And Darrell Walker is in the back if you've got questions.
Thank you again. So essentially, this, excuse me one second. So this is, this action is to approve, it's a request from the Winston-Salem Forsyth County Schools to approve funding the North Forsyth High School Renovations project, which was listed in the project, in the 2016 project list for the bond funds. Now this amount that was approved by the Board of Education is $20,618,314. So it's about $3.9 million over the $16 million, and that was inflation dollars that I'm assuming was added to the project budget estimate. So essentially, that's your action would be authorizing that project. And I'm sure Mr. Walker can explain the actual project if you have any questions about that.
I would like to know. I have forgotten since
Mr.
the
Walker.
bond was passed.
While he's coming up, I'll just mention, because I think it's interesting, if you remember, the original referendum amount was $350 million, and so this action will appropriate up to $290,536,950. So that's how far along we are in the process.
Thank you. Yeah, this project is a pretty major renovation and a conversion at North Forsyth High School. They have a new kind of a medical magnet over there. And so this part of renovation probably touches about 3/4 of the campus there at North Forsyth. And so we finished all of our schematic plans and elevation plans and went to bid with it. I think it's going to be a really great project for that school and uplifting for that community.
Good. That'd be great.
Additional questions?
It is like a big picture, replacing all the windows, because tons of casement windows and
Yeah, there's some windows,
in the
HVAC.
courtyards, new media center, all that major.
Moving the office, whole new entrance into the school, kind of moving the office over towards where the cafeteria area is and doing some expansion there. When you come in, we'll kind of have like a hospital, kind of a rotunda where you come in and kind of a reception area for the medical magnet. So, yeah, a lot of touches there.
Additional
Darryl,
comments? Yes.
Darrell, we're all very sorry for your tragedy yesterday.
Oh,
Please
thank
let
you.
everyone know.
Thank you. I really
appreciate the support for law enforcement. It was amazing what took place yesterday. It really was.
You all did a good job.
So Daryl, my question, sorry, Commissioner. My question was relative not to this, but it's for Ashley. And the last time that you were here, I believe, we had some questions about the land and the sale. Is it at a place where you can talk about that a little bit?
Yeah.
In terms of where we are?
Yeah, we finished all the land purchase at one piece that was tied up in a large family, actually in a foreclosure issue around a lot of people within the family. So we kind of settled that. We need some, there's about $14,000 in liens on that property that we've got to figure out whether the city will waive or whether we'll have to pay those liens. But we're working on that, kind of came out Friday. So, but we are getting ready to engage an RFP for the architect for that project. And we have a meeting tomorrow to talk about a design committee to support that. We've been in a lot of communication with the Housing Authority as part of the grant there, and how we can incorporate some of those plans within that plan, and some community support wraparound services around the building.
Okay, thank
Yes,
you.
ma'am.
Just one question, Mr. Chairman.
Yes,
if
sir.
I could. Just to convey again, our support for what happened in the school system yesterday, and our condolences to the parents and to all the students at Mount Tabor. After putting 40 years in the high school situation between here and Illinois, my heart beats for those students, because that's something we don't ever want to experience. My question, Darrell, do we have a designated objective for minority participation in this bond activity at North Forsyth at this point?
At North Forsyth, right now, we're at about 24%
24%.
on this bid package. Still got we've got a few things left to bid on the some of the trades, so I think we're going to be in good shape there.
Okay.
We do. And again, going back to Mount Tabor, thank you for your support and investment in the security packages in this bond. Made a huge difference yesterday to be able to see what was going on live, to be able to track what was going on, to be able to give good information to law enforcement so that we could remedy that situation as quick as possible was a big help yesterday.
And I take it it seems all the evaluation plans to other sites, because I know those been working on for a while, to have all these alternative places, parent places, all those kind of things. It appears all that worked pretty well, probably except for getting bus drivers and getting all the buses doing.
Yeah, it worked really well. Part of our plan, and part of that package within this security plan was to have off-site collections around when you have emergency situations and working with partners, but also the ability to pull up a map of the school and click on it and go live and see what was happening. So we were able to actually see what was taking place yesterday, kind of live. So the reunification was kind of controlled after our initial movement to Harris Teeter and the Y was kind of controlled with the city of moving it to the Coliseum, which was a smart move with a lot more ability to have parent pick up at that point. We learned a few lessons along the way. I mean, what happened yesterday was, so you wouldn't let any kids drive their cars. So we had about 1,500 kids that we had to bus. So we pulled all of our buses from North Forsyth lot, basically to transport our kids. So we had buses sitting there for about 2 hours until we got everything secured and locked down and knew what was in place before we started moving vehicles to the Coliseum. But what happened with that was, while kids were there, everybody had been just going so hard all day. Everybody's cell phones started dying. Batteries were going out. Nobody could get a hold of anybody. When you're in a place that big, it's hard to communicate. And so I knew we had some bullhorns out there somewhere, and we found them at the office. It takes 4 D-sized batteries for each one. I had enough for one. And so we went and bought a bunch of batteries, and so we had a little time. You just kind of learned, little things you got to prepare for. As hopefully you don't have to go through that, but you need to be prepared for it. But
So Chairman, while we're in the discussion, and Daryl, that you're here, I just want to talk about a little bit of the ARPA funding that we have, and relative to the cyber security that Sheriff Kimbrough was asking us for. There was a bit of juvenile justice or prevention initiative that he asked us for in the budget, but we didn't allow it. So I'm just trying to be like proactive relative to if he have had knowledge of some of this stuff that was transpiring on social media, that he could have probably conversated with the school systems, because again, we know that this was driven from there. So just something that we can talk about in the future. And then we have our funding opportunities coming up, so.
Yeah, that was one of the things that when we had our,
He can see everything that you can see, right?
well.
No, I'm not talking
yeah,
about that. I'm
but
talking
he
about
has-
previous.
What the city has that the sheriff doesn't have is the ability, if someone types in social media, use the word gun, it sets off an alert. At that point, the city has that technology, and I don't think the sheriff has that ability, because it automatically, you have someone that kind of 24/7 kind of scrolling social media, they don't have that alert system. So when the city PD was doing SROs, we were getting calls all the time in the middle of the night, hey, we got an alert about this, and this, and then they immediately sent somebody to the house, and so it never really showed up on the doorstep. So I think that's what he's asking for.
Well, what I don't understand is that, does the city monitor that all night anyway? That being is that the city I mean, I'm trying to decide, why do we need to replicate that software?
Yeah, I knew they were doing it
If it's
as
done
part of
one
their
place.
our services, but I assume, I mean, we haven't heard as much from them since that relationship was changed. So I'm not quite honestly, I'm sure that conversation is going to pick up now.
Additional questions? Okay.
All right, thank you, Darrell.
Thank you.
All right, agenda item 8 is a resolution authorizing acceptance of a grant from the Winston-Salem Foundation awarded to the Forsyth County, North Carolina Cooperative Extension for the expansion of community gardens in Forsyth County, and Janice Hillenbrand's going to brief us on this. It's got an associated budget ordinance amendment.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. I promise to keep this short and sweet. Forsyth County Cooperative Extension received notification that they were eligible to accept a grant from the Winston-Salem Foundation for $8,000 for the expansion of community gardens in Forsyth County. This grant will support new and existing community gardens by educating participants in sustainable horticulture practices, techniques to increase production success, and provide seeds and transplants for biennial distribution. The grant expectations are to strengthen and sustain new and existing gardens in limited resource communities and to implement best practices in garden organizing and sustainable horticulture. The department is seeking permission to receive and allocate the $8,000. Are there any questions?
Questions or comments? Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Janice. Agenda item 9 is a resolution authorizing execution of an agreement between Forsyth County and the University of North Carolina School of the Arts through its Spatial Justice Studio at the Center for Design Innovation for the development of the Neighborhood Equity Atlas. And Joshua Swift, I hope, is on the line. You there, Joshua?
I'm here.
All right.
Can you hear me?
Yep.
So, yeah, this is just a little bit of background. Matt Forsyth has been working on this distressed area project now for over 8 years, and the decision was made to revamp this project and move to another organization. Bids were put out to the Spatial Justice Studio and Forsyth Futures, and both came back with their proposals. And basically from the proposals, both were good, but also both were very different. What Forsyth Futures offered was more of a report, while Spatial Justice offered a program. Their vision aligns with the Matt Forsyth and the county. It takes it to a higher level. It will have 2 paid students from Winston-Salem State University working on the project, and to develop a neighborhood atlas which will identify areas that are improving and replicate those areas in areas of need throughout the community.
Questions or comments?
So there'll be students from the School of the Arts, not from Winston-Salem State. I'm trying, are they going to be Winston-Salem State working with the School of the Arts? I'm just trying to picture that.
And I have Joseph Sloop and David Torin on the line, but the understanding is there'd be 2 paid students from Winston-Salem State. I see Dr. Sloop here.
Yes, that's correct.
I think the project lead is really out of School of the Arts.
That's what I was-
That's what differentiates it. It's
Trying to figure that
a
out.
collaboration that's pretty unique, actually. So.
And just out of curiosity, who prepared the RFP for this particular project? Is this driven by Map Forsyth? Did they prepare an RFP for this particular proposal? Because it looks like we only had two potential vendors, both School of the Arts and Forsyth Futures. Is this something that XYZ, somebody in Greensboro could bid on?
Yeah, they could have. Where this originated from, this is Joseph Sloop, was right before Rhonda Tatum retired. She and I had met, and we're trying to figure out the next steps of this project. And at that time, we decided to put the bid out to both Forsyth Futures and to the Spatial Justice Studio in particular. The idea was we really wanted to focus on organizations here within the community who had buy-in in the community. And so that's how that request for proposal began, and that's whom we reached out to during that time.
Yeah, I think the assumption is, and it may be an improper assumption, but we have been working with the distressed property data that was originally developed out of Map Forsyth for years, and so and lots of agencies in the county. If you remember when that data first came out, the United Way grabbed it and took it and ran with it, and that's where Place Matters came from. It really came from some data that Joseph Sloop had done, and we were good at the data piece. We were not as really prepared to interpret the data and make recommendations based on that. Of course, United Way took off and really changed their whole program based on that Place Matters work, realizing I was actually on the United Way board at the time, and I was scared about it because I said, these are some really difficult problems, and the idea that you can move the needle in like a year is a little bit unrealistic. So I was a little frightened about that. But what we were trying to work on in-house was trying to take we got a lot of great data, but we were trying to take it, and now we got 8 or 10 years worth of data, try to figure out, because lots of things have been done in those areas that were really highly distressed, to find out if they were actually improving, and then make the connections between what community effort made them improve. And I think that's where we are. And so I think our assumption was, right, wrong, or indifferent, was that those two groups actually, because those two groups actually had already been working with that data. And so the kind of the people were still there. Is that fair, Joseph? I didn't mean to extrapolate too much on that.
No, that's exactly it, Dudley.
Got it, thank you.
And it's really embedded in public health. When Chantel got it, she took off, and public health has some funding to do it, and that's where. Chantel, you got anything extra?
No, I mean, for us, we really are working hard to try to move the needle in the community, and we feel like this work through Spatial Justice Studio is going to help us to better make informed decisions instead of just being reactive. And so we want to change, move the needle on various social determinants of health, but we need to know what's actually working, what's not, what has improved through these, years of the data from the distressed area. So for us, we're kind of a little bit at a stopping point until we get this so that we can really try to figure out some evidence-based programming.
Very good.
I had one question, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir.
Do you think that this might be a linkage between this kind of work and the map on houses that have gone into foreclosure in such a concentrated area?
So that's a little bit of a separate project that we're working on the foreclosures with the tax office, and there's actually, I know Legal Aid has applied for some funding through ARPA to try to assist with that as well. Certainly in the distressed area, we will see kind of foreclosure data probably as, part of that, but that's not necessarily the core of this project. But Joseph, please correct me if I'm wrong.
No, that's correct, Chantel. Yeah, the foreclosure, right now, the distressed area project has roughly 26 variables, and we're hoping to boil that down into a few less, honestly.
But no, it's not going to be like the foreclosure project that's, that we're working on right now with the tax office.
Okay, thank you.
All right. If there are no other questions, I'll go ahead and dive into agenda item 10's resolution authorizing execution of facilities use agreement between Forsyth County and the University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill on behalf of its School of Social Work for the use lease of office and classroom space to accommodate the master's and bachelor's degree programs that are off-site programs from those schools. Cindy Firkin should be on the line. She's with DSS. Cindy, are you there? There you go. All right, you're on mute. We cannot hear you. Click the button. Great.
Can you hear me now?
We can hear you now.
Okay. All right, this is a 2-year revenue contract with University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill for a facilities use lease agreement to allow the school to use 1,500 square feet of office and classroom space located on the 5th floor of the DSS building to accommodate their master's and bachelor's degree programs in social work. The county agrees to provide classroom, meeting, and office space, tables, chairs, phone, internet service, computer lab services, utilities, janitorial services, and student parking in exchange for the rate of $450 per student up to a maximum of 15 students per class, not to exceed $6,750 per class, offered at no more than 3 classes per academic term. The partnership with the school and DSS was established in August 2005. Service period is September 1st, 2021 through August the 31st, 2023. And this revenue contract is not to exceed $60,750 per academic year. And I'm happy to answer any questions.
Questions or comments?
Just one question.
Okay, sir.
Has any interest been indicated for a PhD degree in this area instead of just a bachelor's and master's?
Not to my knowledge, no, sir.
Yeah, I think the focus on this is really creating a pipeline of students that we actually can employ, and so it's been helpful, and it really does distinguish our community. So. All right, thank you, Cindy. All right, got 3 property. I'm sorry. Did I move those feedbacks? 3 property matters. Chelsea, come on up, and you can review them. I'll just introduce them real quickly. The first one is a resolution authorizing termination of a lease with Cardinal Innovations Healthcare, and you can just do all 3, Chelsea.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. This first item is to authorize the termination of a lease agreement with Cardinal Innovations Healthcare. If you all will remember, back in 2018, Cardinal Innovations Healthcare gave the county the Highland Avenue Center building, and with that, we executed a lease for them to lease back about 5,000 square feet. And due to the upcoming disengagement with Cardinal, both Cardinal and the county feel it is in the best interest to terminate that lease agreement. With that, a few pieces of equipment would convey to the county just so we can maintain continuity of a few building systems. But at a later board meeting date, we would bring to you a lease agreement for partners for you all to approve for them to lease that space, since they will be the new LME MCO. I'm happy to answer any questions you have.
Comments, questions? Okay.
The second second item is to authorize the execution of a lease agreement with Monarch, and this is for just over 12,000 square feet at the 651 North Highland Avenue building. This is Annex 2. It would be for a 3-year lease at a rental rate of $9.33 per square foot, and both landlord and tenant would have a termination ability of provided 90-day notice. So a full-service lease, less janitorial, which is consistent with what they have been doing there at that facility, and they provide mental health and developmental disability programs for their clients. And we have informed them that we'll be evaluating the space for maybe county use at a future time, so they're aware of that. I'm happy to answer any questions on this.
Questions or comments?
Did the lease price change from their previous lease?
No, we kept it the same.
Okay.
And the final item is to declare certain county-owned personal property as surplus and authorize its disposition via public electronic auction. And this is with Liquidity Services Operations LLC using the GovDeals platform. It's the same website that we've been using for several years now. And all of the fees from this are passed along to the buyer. And on the last sale, which was in April of 2021, we had a revenue of over $19,000. And so you have a list attached to your item that represents all of the property we're asking to be declared as surplus. And this comes from all different county departments. We do try to reuse items, but some things have just exceeded their lifespan. So we ask that you deem them surplus. And sale is to begin on September 27th and run through October 11th. And happy to answer any questions you may have on this.
Questions, comments?
I'm assuming, it looks like a whole lot of things, maybe from the previous library and all the library changes, both with the Clemens opening of the downtown and Clemens, because it looked like a lot of the, I'm guessing, furniture and shelving
Yes, sir.
coming out of some of those older facilities look like a lot. Curiosity question, when the items do not sell, and I'm sure they don't, I'm just kind of, where do they go? I mean, we've tried to dispose of them, so what do we do? Give them away, take them to the dump? What do we do?
There are some items that we keep for the next sale if we just think it was a one-off that nobody bid on them. Some items we do just dispose of. There have been a couple that we have kept because we've realized was a request after we submitted this list, but most of them are just disposed of in the dumpster.
Sometimes I go down there and give them to retirees at events and turn it into artwork. That's the other thing that we do. So, and if you ever want to if you ever want to go be amazed, Chelsea and General Services staff do a great job of managing that warehouse. It is the coolest thing to walk in and see that organized space with all the things that are going on through Fred's list and the recycling that we do in there, and then the way they stage this stuff for GovDeals, because you got to take a picture of it now and get it posted and all this stuff. Anyway,
Are you thinking of retiring?
it's the coolest thing. Yes, I am sometime, but in the future. But in the meantime, I'm going to go down there every time somebody retires and create some artwork or something. So anyway, all right. So we have a whole bunch of appointments that'll take care of about half of this agenda, for items 14 through items 25, I believe. And then you've just got reports. You've got the tax assessor collector's refund under $100, the August 2021 contribution-based benefit cap report. And then the only other item I have is just a short briefing on the ARPA application process closed. You heard from Aisha Carter last Thursday. She did a magnificent job in her first debut presentation in front of you. And so I've asked her just to real quickly tell you how many applications you received, what we are doing internally that she has done a great job of leading under sort of the direction of Lee Plunkett. And so
Before she starts, could I get on the appointments?
Yeah.
There's an appointment to the Cardinal Advisory Committee is down in there, in that mix, and that is not going to exist, and there's no sense of even collecting and advertising or whatever else. It's, I'll see if I can find the number it is.
17.
It is, yeah, number 17. That is.
So I presume we can pull. We just haven't
Defunct
gotten
and can be gone.
Okay. Got that?
Sorry.
Sorry, Vice Chairman Martin, I was not paying attention. Can you repeat yourself?
Sorry, I just.
So it's item 17, if you notice on the appointments, it's an appointment to Cardinal Innovations Community Advisory Committee. And since they will be no more, I presume that we will not do that unless that becomes a Partners Advisory Committee.
No, and when Ashley originally asked me about it, we did not have formal approval.
Okay.
And I forgot to tell her that we do effective November 1st, so that can be pulled.
Yep, thank you for recognizing that, Commissioner Martin. All right.
Okay.
All right, good afternoon, Board of Commissioners. I just want to give a quick ARPA update where we are with the process. We have a total applications submitted, 176, 25 of them are internal. Total funds requested, $225 million. And as it relates to the evaluation process, we're going to look at 3 different things. One, is it legal and allowable
2, the risk of noncompliance. 3, the overall impact in the community. And on a concurrent basis, we will be looking to see if we can filter any of the applications to other organizations or agencies, such as Forsyth County Schools or the City of Winston-Salem. As it relates to the time frame, this is tentative, but a tentative review start date would be the week of September 7th, which is next week, and a tentative review end is the week of October 4th. And we hope to have this to you guys by mid-October, so October 14th or October 21st.
Could you roughly, if you took the top, you mentioned 225 million total, did I hear it correctly?
You heard me correctly,
So
225 million.
If you took the top 10, the largest 10, and you don't have it in front of you.
Yeah, I
but
don't.
There's got to be some must be some really large ones in there.
It is a couple large ones.
I actually have it in front of me.
Well,
So-
what is kind of the top, can you
The
just
top
read
one is
total?
20 million. The first one is, the biggest ask was 20 million.
All right,
No, and then the 10th one down was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 was 5 million. So items 9, 10, and 11 were all for 5 million. The lowest amount that anybody asked for, which I think was an application that somebody sent in as sort of a placeholder, was $1.
So that wasn't the placeholder one.
There was a $1 one.
There was a $1 one. I don't know if
There's
it was a
one.
typo.
Yeah, the
or
second
not,
one
but-
was 3,500. So the lowest real number we got was 3,500.
so can you just, if you add that, all the 10 together, those three you mentioned, that's 35 million, what else?
So 20 million, 15 million, 10 million, 9,500,000, 7.2 million, 7.1 million, 6 million, 5 million, 5 million, 5 million, 5 million.
Million here, million there.
Couple 2
Here,
million.
there,
That's
everywhere.
about half of them are in the top 10, about half the money. of the request.
Well, that'd be 20 or
90 million.
40, 50.
The top 10 totals 90 million.
What'd you do today, Dave? I threw away about $9 million and
In my head, I got a little higher, but it might be off a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's really interesting, and I'll tell you my early, I mean, these are, because we really have not dived into them at all. I've not looked at one of the details on this, but what I'm really, and Kyle Haney said this, you know, we did this in a very open process, and obviously the board was a big part of that, and so there are a ton of really interesting ideas in this, and there's a lot of passion around how to improve the community, and so this will not be as simple as a regular budget process.
Oh, I
where
know
you-
that.
some of these ideas are going to take months and maybe maybe years to actually kind of develop out. But there's a lot of it'll be fascinating, and you know there'll be some that you know they've you can see where they've asked for other dollars in other places, even from y'all, you know. So there's some of that, but I think, you know, I feel great about what we got to work with, and I feel great about having Aisha. And
Are we cooperating at all with the city in terms, because they've got, I'm sure, a big mass of requests?
Yeah,
To
and
kind
so-
of not only look at duplications, but maybe to talk a little bit about synergy?
But three very different processes. So when I talked to Superintendent McManus about it, they really don't envision an open process. They envision sort of identifying initiatives and then going out and trying to, in working to try to get the initiative done. They may ask for bids for a particular initiative, but it's going to be it's not really going to be driven by an open process. And so she was very open to want to, you know, one of our sorts on this will be, is this something that really more is in line with the schools? And she was very eager to see that. And so there will be a process where we share with them. The city is a different process. You know, they had done some early kind of visioning work, and they actually have a set of, I think, if I heard Lee correctly, he's got about $6 million, really without an application process. They're going to move forward with some stuff, to do some stuff that they, you know, have ideas around doing, maybe with a process to come in after that. But he's certainly interested in seeing what bubbled up out of here, and he certainly understands that there are things here that may be city-centric, that are in their lane and not ours, that really need to be pushed off.
so I think that will happen. I think on the community college side, the same thing there, although they had less money and theirs is more focused on some other things. And then with the other towns, we're still having conversations with them, and we will share this with them. So if there's a program that's really, centric to Kernersville that was more municipal in nature anyway, we would obviously push that off. So I think through this process, there'll be that will happen as well. But what I can promise you is full disclosure. Full disclosure when we get our internal review done, and then lots of sharing on what all that is. But it's not going to be there may be a few projects that we quite simply say, here they are, do you want to fund them? There's a fair amount of coordination through these, because there's a fair amount of coordination through here. And they span economic development to COVID response to everything, water and sewer, premium pay, the whole shoot match. So.
I'll give it to the Winston-Salem Journal and let them do a series of stories on it. See what got, no. Mr. Kaplan said no.
Well,
There'll be a lot to write about because there's a lot here, and so it will be exciting.
So, Chairman, what I would like to say is, Dudley, I appreciate you so very much, and we do give you your accolades, but you have you're very skillful in finding good talent, and I say that, and passionate talent. I say that because last couple weeks ago, Aisha and Kyle have been spending lots of time in the community, and I appreciate staff being on the ground, boots on the ground and touching our citizens. It's important. It's important for you to be there to support us because we don't know everything. I don't know all of the gamuts here in every department, but it's good to have you. It's good to see a face in the community that people trust. So that matters. And I just wanted to say thank you, thank you, thank you. We know, and the message that I've been giving to the community, we're not going to be able to fund everybody. But through this process, I believe that we can turn individuals' dreams and their passions through an exercise, through Forsyth Tech, through their small business, and, at the Enterprise Center. Just in our neighborhoods, there's a way to kind of help those individuals through an educational portion so that they're ready when they're ready. So no doesn't mean no today or forever. It just means not right now.
Right.
So thank you again for your work and the worth of work that you do. I know it's a lot. I know that we are a lot. But
I just started Monday.
I
so
told
you remember.
others, and Joy called in today, just trust the process. We're going to be just fine. And I have to also commend my colleagues, again, for that resolution and addressing the 80% in the qualified census tracts, and knowing that we will build back better here in Forsyth County. Thank you so very much.
All right, thank you.
Just one comment.
Yes.
I love your name.
Thank you.
It has a lot of meaning. Beyond that.
It means life.
I know.
And it's not from Stevie Wonder's song.
I understand. I'm a
before we adjourn, I have-
I'm a little history buff too, but I want to ask one specific question though. As we assess the validity of these applications, are we using a numbering process of any sort, a numeric one versus just a qualitative assessment?
No, so what we're gonna do is, it's gonna be like a yes, no, or high, low, but it won't be a rank, number-wise, numerical rank.
It'll be ordinal and rather than nominal, but we're trying to stay away from a numerical ranking in here, but with categorical ranking is really what we're after.
That's probably a good thing.
But we'll see the name of the organization in a summary like we've had in the special appropriations.
You will see it just like special probes, and but what will be a little different is we really don't do the kind of compliance review. We don't spend much time on the special probes when we give those to you during a regular budget process. We just never do. And there's always been a question about whether we really do special probes or not. So now that we do them, maybe we need to start doing them a little more. But this time we really do. We're having to do a compliance sort of evaluation. There'll be
is it eligible use for the funding? So there's that piece of it. Is the organization sustainable? We're having to make some determinations about that, and is it a real organization? Are they sustainable? Those kinds of things. And then really, we are making an impact assessment at the staff level, and Aisha's put together a really neat, because you can't expect, a group of 5 people to do 173 of these. So she's got teams, and she's put them in teams that'll do this, and it's going to be pretty cool. So
Yeah.
I have one quick question about all the comments we heard about evictions and about, I want to ask Chantel this question, about, it makes a lot of sense at the point of going to be evicted, if there's an opportunity to move this money forward, that'd be a great place to do it. And one of our speakers today, don't know if they're telling the truth or not, said we used to be helping do that, we used to be there, and now we aren't.
Thank you for the question, Vice Chairman Martin. So DSS staff was in eviction court because we also feel very strongly about helping individuals through their crisis. However, what I will say is when Judge Menifee retired, one of the first actions was to kick DSS out of eviction court. So we have not been allowed to return to eviction court. Victor has been trying to strategize around that.
Is there some recourse? What judge needs to be talked to about that? That just sounds to me like we're having trouble. We have money that we're having trouble awarding to people who need it and people who want it. And this is the new judge that took Judge Menifee's place?
So the new chief judge is Judge Romer. She appointed a new magistrate effective that day as well, Deaton, and essentially through Judge Romer, Mr. Deaton is not allowing DSS in eviction court. So we've also been trying to strategize around, can we set up a table in the lobby? This is our building. The concern from staff was, will we be held in contempt of court? But in my mind, it's our building. We could set up a table. But certainly that's something we need to talk to our attorney about. So we're trying to navigate that situation.
Well, I think we should, as a board, send a letter to Judge Romer
Suggest.
and let her know how critical this is. Maybe she didn't understand how important it is to DSS, for DSS to be there, because some evictions could be handled if DSS were there. So I'd like to propose that we send a letter from the board.
I second that proposal.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
all we have, Mr. Chairman, we have done a day's work. It's almost 5 o'clock.
Mr. Kaplan? Mr. Kaplan, let's move that we adjourn. I'll second the motion to adjourn.